Everything's turned down.
It's the box. I got
Yeah,
it.
just turn the box down.
I did. Okay.
Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to this meeting that has joined. We're still gathering here, working out some of the details. For those of you that are panelists, you will be able to self-mute during the meeting, or please self-mute unless you've been called upon. You can use the raise hand function and I will call on you as I see that. And then for those of you that are attendees, you will have an opportunity to raise your hand as well. and be called on after everyone else on the region officer panel has had a chance. So we're still gathering here. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to go back on mute and I'll make this announcement again in a few seconds. Thank you.
And then you can go unmute yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yes, yes.
I'm still,
Hello and welcome everyone to this meeting.
I'm always,
We will be starting shortly. For those of you that are panelists,
there's a lot of questions people,
want to remind you that you will be self-muting
there you go, it's right.
during the meeting.
You're not,
For those of you that are attendees, if you do have a question, please raise your hand. You will be called upon. Panelists also need
you
to
work through the bottom, it's
be
got,
recognized.
when you open, it, we rally together, you go to.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, John. This is Joanne.
Hi, Joanne. We're finally going to get some rain this week out here. It's been 2 months, 3 months since we've had rain.
Hmm.
Hello.
We have an overcast day here in Texas. So,
Where are you?
Texas near Houston,
Okay. Okay.
but it's in the high 60s right now. It's supposed to get to 70 today.
Wow. Yeah, it's 60 degrees here, and it's supposed to get a little warmer, but it's supposed to rain most of this through the weekend. So that's good news for us.
Yes, it is.
Look at all these attendees. They're everywhere.
We're gonna be at a rally.
I'd like to welcome everyone
Hey, Ken.
and some feedback.
Sounds like Max
I
Headroom.
don't even like listening to myself the first time, let alone.
I like that.
We are staying there. Good. Yeah, so I'll let you know.
I want everyone to know that if you're not on mute and you're on line, we can hear you. Everyone that's here, phones are live and everybody can hear you. Several times.
Trying to turn it off.
Through because he's better than somebody else. Yeah, the volumes are feeding into the microphone.
I'm unmuted.
Not
Sound.
the meeting device,
There's sound on.
on your device.
It's just fine.
Oh, it's gotta be shut right off. So you can see what's going on in these things here, okay?
And you'll hear what's going on too. You don't,
Just shut it off completely.
Why don't you shut it off completely? Because I can still hear it.
okay, once again, I would like to welcome everyone. It's 12:30. This is our Region Officers Forum. I'm going to thank everyone for coming. We have currently 41 participants online, plus those of us that are here in person. I will start with doing an introduction by region. So I will start with the region presidents and ask them to announce their officers and then go forward. I'm going to do it in a random order. And because I'm speaking right now, I'll start. I have with me my first vice president, Brad Briggs, and my second vice president, Fred Keel. And I'm not sure if he joined or not, but we do have an incoming second vice president awaiting certification by election, but Mike Pastva will be joining the board at the next, will be installed as second VP coming up. So go with Region 8.
Mike Sisk here. I have Greg Vadner, my first VP, on here with us.
Okay, thank you, Mike. 10, Michelle Barassa. Michelle, if you're on, you need to, there you go. Michelle, are you on? You need to unmute if you're going to speak. About anyone from Region 10? Okay, Region 1.
Good afternoon, Region 1, Doug Hart, President, and I think Bard Fuller, First Vice President, is also on. And I believe RJ Dominic is running around keeping the sound going down there in Sarasota. So welcome and thank you.
Region 3. Bill Wild, you need to unmute.
Okay, and I'm unmuted. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Bill Wild, Region 3, coming to you from Cumming, Georgia. And I believe, even though I can't look out into the room, I believe that I have my first VP, Christine Baum, should be there, and as well as my second VP, Jerry Peterson. So thank you guys for being there. I wish I could be, but I'm scheduled for surgery in a couple days and I wasn't allowed to come. So here I am.
Okay, Region 7.
Good morning, because it is morning here in Arizona. We're a couple hours behind you. I'm Jane Carmichael, Region President for 7. And in Sarasota is our first Vice President, Beth Zelton. Thank you, Beth, for being there.
Region 12. Oops, we'll wait, give her a minute. How about Region 9, Bill Miller?
Yes, it's Bill Miller, Region 9 President. I don't believe any of my vice presidents are participating. I don't see them on the list anyway.
Okay, thank you. Region 5.
Hi, everybody. This is Chris Seplak, President of Region 5. I don't think Artie Martin's on the line. I think he had to work today. So I'm still up here in Indiana. So thank you, everybody, for coming.
Region 11.
Ken Johansson, Region 11 President. I think I don't see Steve Parr, who would be our first Vice President. I do see John Hawley, who is our second Vice President. We're both in Arizona right now.
Very good. Actually, Stephen is online.
Oh, hi, Stephen. I don't see you, but hi.
I don't see him with a picture, but he is on for video or audio.
Okay.
Region 6.
Hi, it's Jim Johnson, Region 6. Larry Madden should be there with you guys. I heard his voice on there a little while ago. And Jan Hebner is on here. I saw her. Yeah, there she is. And she's even got her video on now. Okay, so that's Region 6. Thanks.
Very good. Region 12, Cecilia,
Present, yeah, I'm here.
would you introduce your officers if they're online?
Is anybody online?
Oh,
Laverne,
Yep.
are you online, Laverne? So Laverne McHenry, my first vice president, and I have Abe Hernandez, my second vice president. He's probably working. Not sure if he's online.
Okay, and Richard, Region 2.
Good afternoon, Richard Short, President Region 2, representing our 15 local clubs. Greetings from New Jersey and the New Jersey Shore. We have our first VP, RJ Marquette. There he is, RJ, from the Washington, D.C. club. And our second VP is Gary Russo from the New York Finger Lakes Airstream Club. I didn't see his name. I don't know whether he's on today or not, but greetings from Region 2.
Okay, thank you again and welcome. I want to remind everyone, if you're a panelist, to self-mute when you're finished speaking. If you have a question or need to make a comment, please raise your hand. Attendees, you can raise your hand if you have a question or comment during the meeting, but will need to be recognized, and the Barb at headquarters will actually control your ability to speak or not. So I have a brief statement I'd like to read, and then we'll get started. The current Region Officers Forum format started in 2010. The purpose of this forum is to give the region officers a chance to discuss all the items anticipated to be discussed at the IBT seminar and meeting prior to that meeting. The forum is generally held 2 to 3 times per year. At the end of this forum, we will vote on whether to continue the forum. If we decide to continue with the forum, we will then select a facilitator for the next meeting. This is an informal discussion, not an IBT meeting. However, please raise your hand to be recognized if you wish to speak or ask a question. Depending on how the discussion progresses, we may ask for a straw vote. The results of the vote are for information only, are non-binding, and are intended to give the maker of the motion a feel for what might happen during the IBT meeting. There is the possibility of 36 region officers at this forum, and all are considered equal. Remember that there are 12 region presidents on the board, and we represent 63% or 12 of 19 possible votes on any item brought before the IBT. The outcome of this meeting for the region officers and all observing the meeting is to have a better understanding of the motions coming before the board. We may end up with a new motion, or existing motions may be modified based on the discussion here today. We may make suggestions to the EC to form a special committee or to take other action as appropriate. Are there any questions before we get started? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the items listed on the agenda in the order that they are presented. You have all received the packet of motions and should have reviewed them prior to this meeting. And unless there is an objection, I will not have the maker of the motion read the motion. A brief description of the motion will be given, and then I will ask for any questions or comments. Is this acceptable to anyone? If not, please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any objections. So I do want to note that Richard Short, who is chairman of the committee in charge of member benefits, has asked for some time at this meeting to discuss those. And if there's any other items to bring up, we will do that after we review all the motions. So the first motion, first of all, Jay Thompson, is he on? And would you please promote him to a panelist? Jay, hang on, they're working on it. Okay, the first four motions come from Jay as National Caravan Standing Committee Chairman. Oops.
I'm on.
I know, I see you. I'm trying to get mine in order. I thought I had them there. Go ahead, Jay. Give us a description of your first motion.
Okay, the first motion, motion A, has to do with the coordination of caravans arriving at the international rally. And what we're doing is we're getting the committee chairman out of the middle. The way it works now is, has been working for a while, is the rally planning committee, i.e. basically those folks, and a caravan coming to the international rally coordinates with the staff at Jackson Center, who then coordinate with the parking committee. This is a simplification, that's what it is.
Okay, Jay, I'm going to repeat some of that. I have had a request here. We had some people that found it difficult to understand. The
Okay.
motion is to delete the current policy on caravan arrivals and replace it with a new section that just coordinates that effort through the headquarters and international rally committee instead of through the caravan chairman. Are there any comments or questions regarding that motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to the second motion.
Okay, second.
Go ahead, Jay.
Second motion B is a clarification of the liability insurance for international caravans. And that's really just straightening out our liability insurance now does cover travel into Mexico and most of the world. But what this does is this just clarifies the way our liability insurance works.
Okay, could you understand that a little better, or do you need it repeated?
It's helpful to repeat them.
Okay, again, this motion deals with clarification on the club policy regarding liability. Just states basically that, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically states that the club provides liability insurance for caravans all over the world unless the insurer determines that that location is a dangerous location. And then the caravan would have to secure their own insurance, and the cost of that insurance would be shared among the caravan members. Are there any questions or comments here in the room? I don't see any. Online. I can't see all the participants. I have to scroll through the list to see if anybody's hand is raised, but I don't see any. So we'll go on next to motion C.
Okay, C, you may recall that in Doswell, I put through a motion to change the required number of nights on a national caravan so that we could run a 9-day caravan. I didn't count well. We have 4 caravans that are running this type of thing, start on a Friday night, end on a Sunday morning. Well, it turns out the motion I put through said 10 nights. Really should have been 9 nights. And so this is correcting, we'll go past the fact that I'm a retired civil engineer, but I have trouble counting the number of nights. So this makes them legal.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So this motion again just changed the duration of nights required in a national caravan from 10 to 9. All right, and the rationale behind that is so that working people can participate in that caravan by taking 1 week of vacation and using both weekends on each end to get the 9 nights in. Any comments or questions here, online? I see none. Going on to motion D.
Okay, motion D is we are creating a different type of a caravan. And that is a contractor caravan in which we can sponsor a caravan, but it is led and entirely operated by a contractor. We have, or will have, 2 of those caravans in, well, 1 in 21 and 2 in 22. They're both caravans going to Mexico. They're both coordinated by Michelle Broussara, and but they will not be national caravans. They will be contractor caravans, and the executive committee needs to approve those on the recommendation of the caravan committee chairman.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Again, this is to add a policy for a new type of caravan, a contractor caravan. Are there any comments here? Online, Christopher Seplak.
There we go. Okay, Jake, just a question. Liability insurance with those, would that come through the club or would that go through the contractor?
That goes through the contractor.
Okay, that's the only thing I was asking. Thanks.
Okay, the question was, is the liability insurance through the club or through the contractor? And the answer was through the contractor. Jay, I have one comment about your motion, the way it's written. I would like to suggest, and you can take this under advisement and reword your motion if you do or not, whatever. We'll look at the formal version on Thursday. But the second sentence in there that says these may include travel to and or in locations where club caravan leaders do not have access, that whole sentence I felt was actually more of the rationale and should not be included in the policy. So I'd like to make that recommendation to you. Whether it remains there or not, I won't change how I vote, but just my thoughts.
Good, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, moving on. Barb, you can put Jay back in the.
Rich Short has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard.
Thank you. Jay, I just wanted to know if there was a criteria that had been developed for the approval of these caravans by contract.
No, criteria has not been developed for that.
So then, may I ask another question here?
Yes, go ahead, Rich.
Is there a plan to go ahead and do that so that we know that caravans that are being offered to members meet some type of a minimal criteria?
They basically what we've got here is these caravans are I don't know that they're going to need to meet some kind of a criteria. Because we are not sponsoring them. We're acknowledging them, but we are not sponsoring them. Anyone can go to a contractor that sells caravans and could get with them and say, okay, I want let's go on this one. Now, Michelle does have a criteria, which we may put in, which says they got to be all airstreams. We don't have any non-airstreams. So that could be a criteria that we develop. I personally think I will wait for the EC to see what they say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Good questions. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Yes, I have my hand raised. Kathy Giese, second VP, Region 10. I actually have experience with going on a contractor to Mexico prior to it becoming official with with Airstream. And I think we definitely need to have criteria. There were lots of promises made and that didn't necessarily happen. And granted, it was kind of a pre-trial, so maybe they've improved the processes on things, but I definitely think there needs to be criteria set, even though Airstream is not particularly sponsoring this per se. We are, I think members look to us to guarantee that there's going to be safety, for instance.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I apologize, I did not see your hand. I would like to remind everyone online, if you would like to speak, don't wave your hand. I can't see that. There's a raise hand function on your screen that you need to do, and that raises a little hand on my screen so that I know you want to speak. Okay.
Hey, Karen, can we take about 5-8 minutes to adjust the sound locally so y'all can hear the Zoom people a little bit better?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, it was about 5-10 minutes to make an adjustment.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break here, 5 to 10 minutes, they tell me. So if you're here in the building and you need to take a break or walk away, those online, same thing. But we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
You get a message from Lori Palmer.
Okay, you're using the audio. Now how do I?
Test.
Additional and updated midwinter. This
Sorry. Richard Short, if you are, actually, excuse me, Richard, I don't see you. So I'm gonna go to Chris Seplack. Chris, if you would unmute yourself and just give us
Yes,
a test.
yes, test, 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Keep talking, keep talking.
Okay, keep talking, all right. Hopefully everybody.
His internet connection is chopping in and out.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That's all right. Your internet connection's a little choppy. I'm gonna pick someone else.
That's fine.
Richard Short, are you there? See, trying to find somebody that's live. Scott Graham, Region 9.
Yeah,
Would
I'm
you
here.
speak?
Yeah, I'm here. I can talk for as long as you want me to, for about anything that you want me to talk about.
Your choice right now. Keep talking. We're trying to
Okay.
make adjustments here in the room so everybody can hear.
All right, that's fine. I'm happy to participate. This is my first one, and I'm glad to be able to see some of the other friends and family that have been at various different rallies with us. So let me know when to stop.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
My pleasure.
Jay looks like he's on the phone. Let me pick someone else. Jan Havner, would you unmute and speak for us? Just we're testing out sound here.
Sure. Hello, everybody from Arkansas. It's beautiful weather today. It should be raining after a while, but right now it's very, very nice, and I wish we were all outside.
Okay, thank you. Mike, would you speak? Mike Sisk?
Yes, I'm here in beautiful Nebraska. No snow on the ground right now. But it's
Are you
coming
able
on
to
like
control individual mics, or is it going to be dependent on the speaker?
We can kind of control each piece. That's what we're trying to refine.
Okay, but I meant for the online stuff, because I think what I'm hearing as an unofficial, don't know anything about this stuff, but each person themselves has a different level, and you may need to continually control it.
Yeah, so where RJ is where we're adjusting. So do we have?
Let's try it again.
Try.
Okay, Mike, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Would you speak again?
Yes, I am here still. Bright sunny skies in Nebraska. Wish I was in Sarasota, but I'm recovering from surgery.
There you go.
And
That's better.
that's more fun than being in Sarasota, I guess.
Okay,
How's
thank
your weather
you.
down there? You bet.
Sun shining. I didn't check the temperature today, but nice out there. Short sleeves and my capris.
Is that a little bit better? Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is everyone back? Are we ready to start again? I lost my participant panel. That was dated yesterday. Okay. Thank you for accommodating us here. We're trying to work through the bugs. This will help for our IBT meeting on Thursday as well. So Barb, I would like to ask you, if you have not already, to bring Tom Smithson from the attendee to the panelists. Tom, I see that you are, oh, there you are. Thank you.
I'm here.
Very good, thank you. We're going to start with action item E. This is a constitutional amendment to allow for electronic or mail ballots for electing international officers. Are there any comments or questions regarding this motion?
Yes, you have the wrong order.
I have the order that was sent to me. Sorry.
Sorry, there was a change.
Okay, let me pull up my version on my computer here so that I follow the right one. This is.
It's the order change.
Okay, I apologize. I hope all of you have downloaded the latest version. My mistake, I didn't. I assumed it didn't say revised, so I thought I had everything. Anyway, action item E is the constitutional amendment to delete Article 8, duties of officers, and Article 13, nominating committee from the Constitution. Are there any questions on this one?
Karen, would it be possible for me to make some explanations that might be helpful?
Sure, we'll start with that. Go ahead, add your comments, and then I'll go back to Kennedy. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, to begin with, the pandemic did a great deal of damage to WBCCI in that it gave me 8 months to sit and think about what should be maybe adjusted or changed in the governance structure of the club. The only thing I would like to say is that most of you have heard me give this mantra before. A constitution is a document which tells who you are. Your bylaws tell what you are going to do, and your policies explain how you're going to do it. The Constitution is written for WBCCI, has had many things in it which actually do not belong in the Constitution, but belong in the bylaws or the policies of the club. And last year for Colorado, we had a couple of amendments to the Constitution, specifically to try to remove some items that should never have been there and to put them into the bylaws or the policies. And this is a continuation of that effort. This particular amendment to the Constitution removes the section dealing with the duties of officers and duties of officers and the nominating committee, and puts them or will put them into the bylaws of the club. And this motion for amending the Constitution, the other day I sent out something to all of the region presidents, a memo saying, okay, if you approve this at the IBT meeting, here's what is going to go into the bylaws or the policies, at least in the draft form. I mean, it's obviously subject to change, but the draft form of moving these two articles from the Constitution and putting them into the bylaws. All right. So having said that, are there any questions?
I don't see any here and online. No questions, Tom, so I think you're good to go. Okay, the next.
Okay, so the next motion is titled, it's a constitutional amendment also. This is a constitutional amendment to allow for electronic or mail ballots for electing international officers. And this particular motion, there are actually two forms of it. The one that you should have is F2, okay? Motion F2, that's the most revised version of that. And in that, any references to the nominating committee have been eliminated, and the section dealing with the delegates meeting has been eliminated. Except there's a significant change. If we adopt this particular motion, this amendment to the Constitution, what we will be doing in the futures for our international officers is we will be electing them by an electronic ballot and or a mail ballot, depending upon the choice of the member. The member will have the option of doing one or the other. If you have a constitutional amendment, however, then there will be a constitutional delegates meeting. The reason for this is that we need to have the opportunity, and this gets messy considering what's going on right now, but we need to have the opportunity for discussion and for potential amendment to any amendment to the Constitution. And under Roberts and also under Ohio corporate code, nonprofit corporate code, that opportunity. Constitutional delegates meeting would be appropriate if and only if you have a constitutional change or a proposed constitutional change. Excuse me. Now, what does that mean for the international rally? Well, if you don't have a constitutional change being proposed to the membership, you will not require a delegates meeting. There are some distinct advantages to that. Obviously, the international rally will have its IBT meetings, but it will also have additional time for the other activities that should be associated with the international rally. Any questions?
Karen?
Oh, Cecilia?
Yeah, I have a question on page 3 of your motion. Under section 1, constitutional delegate meetings shall be held during the International Club Rally when any constitutional amendment is proposed to the membership. All local club presidents shall be notified in writing of its time and place not less than 60 days prior to such meeting. Now, this is any constitutional amendment that comes before the delegates is going to be generated from either the midwinter or the first meeting of the term, which is the last meeting that we attend to at the International. It's hard in a 60-day period sometimes for local clubs to disseminate the information to their members and get kickback from them. I know a lot of members don't care, but sometimes there isn't even a rally within the 60 days by the time they get it. I'm wondering if we could extend that time period maybe for an additional month, for 90 days, to give the clubs a little bit more time so that their members feel a little more connected to the international process. And so a lot of times they don't even get distributed in that time.
Cecilia, I think I don't know about this doesn't talk about the distribution of the amendments. This only talks about the time and place for the constitutional meeting. It doesn't talk about when the amendments, any constitutional
Okay,
amendments are distributed.
Distribution of the information, I read it wrong.
This only talks about time and place. Tom, is there anywhere in any of our documents, whether it's this change or other documents, that require notification to the members of any potential upcoming constitutional changes? And is raising her hand. Lori?
We have to distribute it to all of the local clubs by April 1st.
Okay, so that does,
Email a packet to all the local clubs
okay,
by April 1st. And then everything is posted also in the May Blue Beret. So we have 2 different notifications that we send out to our members in regards to constitutional changes.
okay. I just read this wrong. I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
That was,
And is May sufficient for notification to the membership, do you feel?
I would think so because, well, that's 60 days if it's a June rally, but she said it goes to the local clubs
Presidents
in
in
the local
April.
Presidents in April, which gives them 90 days. That gives them time for a couple of rallies before the international. So it would.
Depending on where you live, but yes.
Thank you. I did, I'm on jet lag. What can I?
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay,
right.
so as an addition to that, the Constitution and Bylaws Standing Committee is required to prepare a report on any constitutional amendment that needs to go out by April the 1st. In addition to that, normally, if you're going to have a constitutional amendment, it would be submitted December 1st for the midwinter IBT. And as a consequence, there actually is almost 6 months of potential review for any constitutional amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Jim Johnson?
Oh, can you hear me? Because you're chopping real bad.
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. My question is in the same paragraph that Cecilia noted, and it says, local club president shall be notified in writing. Does that mean you're obligated to the US Postal Service, or can we do that email also? And do you want to put by electronic means or by or in writing?
Good point.
Lori mentioned that there's a packet of information that they mail out. So it is electronic as well. Okay.
Email and mail.
Okay.
Both of them.
So it does currently go out by email and by, I'll call it snail mail. Tom, is there any clarification that's needed in here to allow for us to do electronic notification?
Well, actually, the next constitutional amendment sets the stage for that.
Well, this is Jim again.
Go ahead, Jim.
It would be really simple to just say and or electronically to that motion, and that way you're covered either way.
Well, I've made a note to that effect. I can certainly make a small alteration, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Jim and Tom. Any other comments or questions from anybody? Okay, seeing none, the next motion, Tom.
Next motion, G, constitutional amendment to simplify the amendment process. Article 16 in our current constitution contains 3 sections to it, some of which are contradictory with each other, which provides the mechanism and the process and whatever else for amending the Constitution. I have often been puzzled by it. We've tried on a couple of occasions to figure out a way to simplify it. And in my extensive time of being trapped, I have rewritten that entire article into a very simple process for amending the Constitution. And it says amendments to this Constitution may be adopted by a 2/3 vote of the delegates at a constitutional delegates meeting per Article 12 of the Constitution. Proposed amendments may be submitted to headquarters by any local club or through the International Board of Trustees, by a board member, or by the international president. Headquarters will process any proposed amendments by existing policy. There is, and I did send to you, all of you, a motion which, if this amendment passes, which describes in detail the policy for amending the Constitution and takes all of that policy stuff out of the Constitution and puts it where it belongs in WBCCI policy.
Oh, Tom, you froze up.
I did?
We lost audio.
Oh, sorry.
We lost your audio.
Well, no, I seem to be right here. I can see all of you.
Doesn't know.
Tom, I can see that you are trying to speak, but we cannot hear you. I know you're not muted. I can see that you are not muted, but we still can't hear you.
All right, let me try again.
Stand by, it's on our end. Barb can
Oh,
hear him.
thank you.
Hold on, it's on our end. We're working on it.
Yeah, we can hear Tom out here.
Right. He hasn't frozen at all.
Are you guys on the Airstream Wi-Fi?
Am I back?
There's a password. My Verizon is sucky in here. I can't get it. I had an Airstream.
It's locked. That's so somebody out there's got that.
Oh,
Aaron, can you ask somebody, we need a.
Yep, Tom, would you try to speak?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
you at least have 3.
Okay.
All right.
Is Barb still hears him at headquarters?
Wish they would have printed this stuff. It's so.
Okay. Jim Johnson, would you speak, please? so it's gonna die.
Okay, I probably got the crappiest.
No, I don't hear Jim. Laverne, would
anybody
you
on here?
speak?
Can you hear me?
I can hear Jim.
No, keep speaking.
Karen, I just got a text from Laverne and she said, we can hear you, us.
Yeah, it appears to be an issue in this building. Okay, not, because Barb at headquarters can hear everyone.
Yeah, stand by.
Camera can.
Sure noise.
RJ, I really don't need this. I'm finding, I can just set it right here. I really don't need it up there. That's why we just take this out of the picture.
Two.
Okay, sorry, wrong camera.
Hi, everybody. Everybody wave at E2.
Yeah.
It's our tech guy. Poor guy. Thank you, everybody, for the patience.
Do you have someone, do you need someone to speak again?
Still on there. Yeah, please.
Richard Short, would you speak, please?
Richard Short, President of Region 2, checking in. here.
Hey, thanks, Richard.
Good job, guys.
Oh,
All right, Tom, let's see if you can speak again.
You sure now? You really want me to?
I take that under advisement.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, you guys really, I only had 8 months, so I've only got 14 motions. So it's like, could have been worse. Okay.
Maybe.
The next motion is actually a bylaws amendment. Thank you very much.
Wait a second, I'm not sure. Were there any questions on the proposed constitutional amendment to change the amendment process? I don't know that we finished that one.
That's item G, right?
It's item G. You kind of got cut off as you were finishing up that discussion. All right, so I guess there is nothing there. The next one, Tom.
The next one is a bylaws amendment to allow the executive committee to meet electronically to carry on club business. We have nothing in our bylaws, constitution, or policies that actually allows us to do what we are currently doing, except for an emergency resolution. And the emergency resolution, which was passed last year, and the second one, which was passed most recently, do allow us to have these kinds of meetings. Both Joanne and I, Joanne is the parliamentarian, and myself have felt that we needed to get something into the bylaws or the policies to allow for this. So that's all this motion does. It just simply says that the EC can hold electronic meetings,
Okay, are there any comments or questions from anyone on this one? Bill Wild.
I actually want to endorse this one, and that when we do that, that we also make the units aware of that, because I know that at least a couple of the units in Region 3 have had to pass their own local resolutions in order to have online meetings as well. So we need to make that widely public if we pass it.
Thank you, Bill. Tom, would you share with Bill your answer to me when I asked a very similar question?
Yes, and if this particular motion passes the IBT on the 21st, I will be sending out a revised model constitution and bylaws, which contains in it an article which allows for electronic meetings. And it's a bylaws change for the clubs, so they can simply write the article into their bylaws, and that makes them perfectly legal. But thank you, Bill, because there have been some clubs that have questioned me about this, and I basically told them that as we were operating under an emergency resolution, what applied to WBCCI also applied to them, and that didn't allow for electronic meeting.
Okay, Brad?
Can you write this in such a way that it flows down to the local club and they can do it at their discretion without changing their constitution or bylaw?
They do not have to change their constitution. It's simply a bylaws change, which their board can do. And it's just a short article to put into their bylaws. And I will be sending that out, assuming that the IBT passes this motion and actually in the second motion that's coming up, pass those motions. I'll be sending that out to all of the clubs with a copy of a revised model constitutional bylaw.
I understand your process, but my question was, can this be written so it flows down automatically to the local club?
Yeah, that's six.
So they don't have to change their bylaws, I think is what you're looking for.
Oh, I see what you're trying to say. Okay. Yes, it can be. And let me give that some serious consideration between now and the 21st. And we can actually, we don't need to change H. We have to change G. Okay.
G was a constitutional amendment, I believe.
No, G is,
you figure it out. And
oh yeah, right, I got it. Right. I'm sorry, it's actually the next one. It's I, motion I.
I, okay.
I is the one which allows for the IBT to hold electronic meetings. And yes, I can put it in there. All right, and I'll do that.
All right, good. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none with this item, we'll move on to item I.
I is basically the same thing. It is simply allowing for electronic meetings by the International Board of Trustees. And I will make a small modification to that to include any local club.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Bill Miller? No, I see some. Is that you, Bill, waving your hand?
Yes.
Okay.
How about region?
Oh, yeah, Tom, add region and local clubs.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. Good point. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to item J.
Okay, this is just a housekeeping thing. All of the appendices that were in the Blue Book over the years have now all been moved to the website. And what this is trying to do is to clean up the Blue Book, remove any references to appendices, and to reference the appropriate place on the website.
Okay, any comments or questions from anyone? I see one on the attendee side. Hold on, let me see who it is. Bob Caldwell. Barb, would you move Bob up so that, or at least recognize him so he can speak? Bob, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to suggest you might consider adding intra-clubs as well to the previous one. You added units and regions. Intra-clubs need that too.
Everybody.
Yeah, somehow make sure it encompasses
umbrella.
everybody, Tom. Let's not be too specific.
An umbrella statement.
Yeah. Any recognized organizations, I don't know what the word is, but okay, thank you. Thank you, Bob. Good point. Anything else?
Did you find it? Yeah, good.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to item J. Oh, that was J, excuse me.
Okay.
Item K.
Title on K is clarification of positions a region president may hold in a local club. I have received a number of questions over the last few months in regards to individuals who are local club officers who have moved to also being a region officer, not a region president, but a region officer. And there was some question about whether they could continue in both positions. And so this motion is a bylaws change and to simply define who may or may not serve in more than one position within the club. And it basically says region officers shall not hold any other office in the international club. However, a local club officer who becomes a region officer may continue to do so until he or she becomes region president.
That's me.
Okay, are there any questions?
Because I'm a girl.
Bill Miller.
Okay, this covers region presidents, but what about region vice presidents?
Region vice presidents may hold a position in a local club.
Okay, just
region presidents may not.
All right.
Okay, and Bill Wild?
Intra-clubs come up again. I am a vice president in the radio club and I am a region president. That's likely to happen again in some other cases. So Tom, we might want to address whether or not you can be an officer in an intra-club.
Officer.
Bill, I don't.
At the same time as being region president.
Okay, I don't think that that's an issue simply because intra clubs do not affect the governance of WBCCI. Local clubs, local club officers, region officers, and obviously EC officers all affect the governance of the club. An intra-club officer does not affect the governance of the club. And so I didn't include it. I mean, it's just another word, but.
Tom, I'd like to respectfully disagree with you. The intra-clubs may not affect the governance of the club, but the club certainly affects the governance of the intra-clubs, and there could be a perceived conflict of interest. And I'm going to use Bill as an example because he brought it up. No, not picking on you, Bill, but his position as an intra-club officer could influence his decisions as a region president and a member of the IBT.
Okay, so you want me to just insert intra-club? So it would read, however, a local club officer, intra-club officer who becomes a region officer may continue to do so until he or she becomes region president?
Bill, does that address your concerns?
Yes, except that I think what I just heard you saying, Vicki, was that it is a conflict for me to be region president and an intra-club officer.
You may not be an intra-club officer and a region president. If we put intra-club in here the way it's written, you may not hold that intra-club position and be region president.
how do you want to, when would that be effective? How do you grandfather that? I'm the third VP. Does that mean that I have to drop out of the leadership chain of the radio club in order to stay president this year and next year as a region president? Because I'm third this year, I'll be second VP of the radio club next year. And you're suggesting that if we were to pass this, that I would have to resign from my radio club officership. And I know this is a specific instance, but the same thing could happen we're creating all these intra-clubs. It could happen in the independent, what do we call the independent guys, in the VAC, and the, any of those.
Women who travel alone.
Well, we either add it in, or by not adding it in, you're okay. So I guess, how do you all want to proceed?
This doesn't sound any different to me than if you look at for example, a congressman who sits on a committee could vote because of a bias he had because of his committee position, but we still have congressmen on committees. I don't see where I have a vote as a intra-club officer that would roll up. The only conflict would be the reverse one that you mentioned, that I might approve something as a region officer that would benefit the radio club, but I'm not sure that I see that happening. I don't know. I just wanted to raise the question. I don't want to resign the radio club. I would prefer that we not have that exclusion, but the way that Tom worded this, it does create that implication.
Okay, does anyone have any objection? Oops, I see some questions. I'm going to go to those first. Jane Carmichael.
My question is kind of backing up a little bit. If you deny region officers from holding offices in certain areas because of their governance influence, when I'm not present and my first vice president subs for me and votes, wouldn't that person also have that effect of governance? Thank you.
Tom, do you want to speak to that question, or do you want me to go on to Joanne Miller?
I would like to come back to what Bill has been talking about. This says region presidents may not hold any other office in the international club. Now, to me, an office in the international club is an office in a region officer or local club officer. I don't look at intra clubs as being that they are. Yeah, I'll take it all back. Go to Joanne. Let her.
Okay, Joanne, would you?
I don't want to get started on this.
Add your comments, please. Oh, Joanne, you're on mute. Please unmute yourself, Joanne. Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to say Tom started out okay and then he blew it. So let's see if I can help him here. It's in Tom's proposal. It says region presidents shall not hold any other office in the international club. Now, to me, that's an umbrella that covers local clubs and intra clubs and any other subgroups that pop up over time. So Bill Wild could continue in his steps, his chairs in the amateur radio club, as long as he's not region president. When he becomes region president, he can no longer serve in an officer capacity in any of the other organizations within the club, local club, inter-club, whatever. So please keep in mind that what Tom is suggesting is just region presidents should only have one job and one job only. And that is being the president of their region.
Okay. John Holly.
We may all be getting a little bit too specific here. I don't see it as a conflict, frankly. I'm an officer in my region, and I'm also an officer with the Indie Streamers Club. And whether or not that will continue, I don't see that big of an influence over the intra clubs to do anything with policy regarding the international club. And I think, contrary to what Joanne just said, when Tom read out that it was the region presidents over the international club, I look at it as being the individual clubs and the region officers rather than the intra clubs, because I really don't think there will be a conflict.
Hey, if I can add to that, I tend to agree with you, Joanne. I was actually going to say something similar once everyone else had a chance to speak. It says region presidents shall not hold any other office in the international club. That agree counts local clubs, intra clubs, caravan leaders, anything we do, you don't do anything else under the umbrella of the international club. And John, you can continue, I'm going to pick on you, please don't take this personal. You can continue your office in the Indie Streamers until you move up the line and become international president.
Or region president.
Or region president, I'm sorry, well, you may want to be international president someday, but region president. Okay, so as you move up and when you become region president, you will no longer be able to hold that office in the Indie Streamers.
Oh, good. So 12 years from now, I'll think it all through.
There you go. Hey, long range planning.
I'll vote for you.
Wild, however, yes, this does, you would have to resign your position in the radio club until you are no longer a region president, and then you could step back in, is how I interpret this. So
How it's written.
are there any other comments or questions? Brad Briggs.
So I hear Tom saying conflict of interest, and I hear Joanne saying you should really just concentrate on being a region president, which are two different things, in my opinion. So which is it? And if it's a conflict of interest, then somebody already brought up the fact that if a president's not at an IBT, then one of the vice presidents fills in for them. Does that conflict of interest still exist?
My interpretation of that would be no. It's a temporary position. And we have provision for that in our bylaws for that substitution. And essentially that person substituting for the region president should be following the guidance of the region president.
Are there any other questions or comments? Bill Miller?
Well, as it's currently written, it says region officers shall not hold any other office in the international club already. So according to that, people are already in.
Yes, they are. I want to point out that the clarification would allow the second and first vice presidents to hold local club offices until they become region president. So it provides that clarification. But yes, actually the way it's currently written is probably a little more restrictive than the way is proposed. Tom or Joanne, if I'm not interpreting that correctly, please correct me. Bill Wild.
I hate to keep belaboring this conversation, but I'm a third VP. I'm 2 years away from being the president of the radio club. My responsibility as third VP is basically to have the title and know that they've got somebody in line. I could certainly see you saying that you didn't want me to be a region president and a intra-club president at the same time. But essentially, what this does, since we have leadership tracks in all these clubs, is it says that when I finish with my region presidency next year, I could then go and become a third, and I would be 3 years before I became president of an intra-club. Given a couple of things. One, the fact that we're talking about a small club and a very small pool of candidates to be the officers in those clubs in the first place. And second, that we have this structure in which it takes so long to rise to the presidency in any of these organizations. It just seems extremely restrictive, given that the pool of people that are willing to do these jobs is not very big in this club. Having said that, I guess this has to go forward, but I'll vote against it.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? All right, by show of hands, are we interested in taking a straw vote on this amendment at this time? Okay, I see some hands. It's not necessarily a majority. Please put your hands down. Everyone get ready. This is a straw vote only. Everyone who is a region officer has the opportunity to vote. We have equal voice here. So if you're second VP or first VP, as well as president, you can vote. If you are in favor of this motion as written going forward, please raise your hand. Okay, I have 2 hands raised in the room and 1 hand raised, 2 hands raised online. If you are against this motion going forward, please raise your hand. I have 6 people in the room with their hands raised. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 hands raised online. So I'm going, you can drop your hands now. Thank you, everyone.
May I speak?
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. My concern is that no one has actually read what the bylaws currently say, which is that region officers shall not hold any other office in the international club except as hereafter provided or as approved by the International Board of Trustees. However, a local club president who becomes president may become a region officer and may compete his or her term as president. The way it's worded, the bylaw currently
Tom,
says that those people who.
Tom, you're breaking up.
Okay. Am I okay now?
Tom, stop. No, you're breaking up. I think I know what you're going to say. I'm going to try to repeat it because I think my voice goes out to everyone. The current bylaw is actually more restrictive than the proposed bylaw in that it states that any region officer cannot hold a position in the international club, which is your local clubs and your intra clubs, unless approved by the International Board of Trustees. However, someone who is a local club president, when they become a region officer, may finish out their term as the local club president. So I just want to point out that the current bylaw is actually more restrictive than the proposed bylaw. The proposed bylaw only affects region presidents. Your first and second VPs would still be able to hold other offices. It doesn't help Bill Wild in this case because he is a region president, but I just want to point that out. So I see a lot of heads shaking here and online. Bill Wild, you have your hand up.
I think the straw vote, maybe I'm reading into this, but the straw vote would seem to have implied that we had a large number of people who felt that region presidents should be allowed to be in the leadership tracks of intra clubs. If that's the amendment that needs to the amendment to this proposal that needs to be made, then that could put this forward to the EC and we would have this conversation about whether or not I and the other gentleman that has the same situation need to resign our other commitments.
Okay, so, and that's a good point. I asked everyone to vote on the bylaw or the motion as written. You're suggesting that this motion be changed to allow for region presidents to hold offices in intra-clubs? Or are you expanding it to any position within the international club?
Intra-clubs is what I'm talking about, Vicky. I agree with it. You should not be a local club officer and a region officer at the same time, except in that case where you're fleeting up. But you turn me back off on purpose?
No.
Okay. I don't see the, I think we need to straw vote to see whether my opinion here is actually the opinion that's being shared by some of the other people.
Okay, we can do that. One moment. I'm going to let Jane Carmichael speak.
Is there a mechanism where if there would be a conflict of interest, the region president could abstain from that vote somehow or another to not make them illegal in what they're doing to assist this group, but make it possible to stay clean?
Joanne Miller, as our parliamentarian, would you address, I think I know the answer, but would you address that? Joanne, you need to unmute.
Sorry. You have got to keep in mind that as region president, you are representing all of the members within your region. So you really cannot abstain. You either have to vote for a motion or against a motion, but you can't step back and say you can't vote on that motion.
Are there any other comments or questions? Brad Briggs?
In respect to what Joanne just said, could the president let a vice president make the vote and they step back that way?
Joanne, did you hear the question and can you respond?
I heard the question and I would prefer not to respond spontaneously right now without doing some checking.
Okay, that's fine. My comment, my opinion, I guess, is that it would be difficult to monitor or to say, you can't vote on this particular interest because of a conflict of interest. We would have to depend on each region president to determine if there was a conflict or not, and then go forward that way. Does that make sense, Brad, or to everybody? Otherwise, we'd have to have a committee that would review conflicts of interest or something.
That's what I was talking about. If the president feels they have a conflict of interest, they can step back and let a VP make the vote.
Yes, I think if a president feels that on any issue, they could do that, but it would be hard to enforce. I couldn't say, when you're region president, you can't vote on this issue because of a potential conflict of interest. Yes, Tom?
I think I might have a solution to this. I'm not sure. Region president shall not hold any other office in the international club with the exception of an intra-club.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to propose.
Okay?
Yep, I got that.
And that takes care of the issue, and it also solves the problem for region officers who are local club officers. They may continue to do so until they become region presidents.
Okay, perfect. Are there any other questions or comments from anyone? Okay, seeing no hands, do we still want to take a straw vote? Just those I can see nod. Okay, we'll go forward with a straw vote then. All those in favor of the bylaw as amended by Tom, please raise your hand. I have 8 hands here in the room and still popping in and out. Attendees, I'm sorry you can't vote. And 13 people online have raised their hands, so. I think and those, I'm sorry, I will do this, and those opposed to the motion as amended, please raise your hand. I see none, either in the room or online, so there you go, Tom. Moving on to item L.
Title of this is the removal of news and views from the WBCCI publications. This is just a housekeeping thing. Since we have developed a very robust website, the role that news and views was serving for more current communication has been replaced by the website. And so I'm seeing the reference to it in the publications section of policy.
Okay. Any comments or questions for Tom on this motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward to item M.
Item M, the title is a motion to change international dues collection from a calendar year to an anniversary year. The purpose behind this particular motion is that with the development of the club's new database with a member portal, it will greatly enhance the club's ability and members' ability to maintain their current membership and keep their contact information up to date. This motion changes the collection of annual membership dues from a calendar year basis to an anniversary year. The anniversary date is the date the member joined, and it will greatly facilitate dues collection and income flow. Current members will all retain the same anniversary date, the end of the calendar year, December 31st. New members will have an anniversary year starting on the day they join. This is an attempt to even out our cash flow for one thing, and two, because of the fact that the members can go in and update their own information and renew their memberships directly on the website. This will make it a whole lot simpler, and it will also take the responsibility for dues collection from the local clubs and place it on headquarters. For those of you who belong to other organizations as I do, I have no organization I belong to has a calendar year, well, I belong to anyway, has a calendar year dues payment. They have anniversary date payments. It's kind of like a magazine subscription. And
makes sense.
This is the proposal, and this is coming.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from anyone? Cecilia?
Yeah, is headquarters okay with this, Lori?
Absolutely, we want this.
Oh, you want it?
Absolutely, it'll, for several reasons.
I don't know if everybody online can hear you. Laura, you may need to step to a mic up here at the table, or RJ's gonna bring you a mic.
There's a mic right there. Okay.
There's a mic right where? RJ. Yeah.
I don't want to hold it. Hi. So, yeah, HQ would like this for two reasons. One, I really think it'll even out our workflow. I mean, obviously, November, December, January is busiest time on earth at HQ. But then the second thing that I think is really important, it would take out of a lot of confusion when people join the prorated system, is just way beyond what some folks can comprehend, as well as those folks that are on the border of whether they want to join or not. You know what? They don't want to join for a year and a half. It's too long, right, to test the waters. So I think we'd have a better chance of joining folks if it's 1 year, one year at a time. If that makes any sense. So yeah, we're all for this.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Well, I have several.
I'm sorry, Bill Miller.
I have several questions. First of all, in item D, any member in arrears more than 30 days of their membership renewal date will be terminated. Okay. What is our current policy about dues lapse?
Lori,
I can answer that
oh,
question.
go ahead, Tom.
If your dues are not renewed by December 31st, you are terminated, dropped.
What do you mean by terminated?
Well, dropped, you are no longer a member.
Okay.
This is a 30-day grace period to allow for you to be reminded and to renew your membership.
Okay, and what happens after December 31st with your big red number?
What happens with it?
Yes. Mhm.
By our bylaws, you are supposed to remove it from your trailer if you're no longer a member of WBCC.
I'm saying with headquarters, what happens to it?
Lori's coming up. 1 second. Sorry. Sorry.
Hi, me again. Okay, so as Tom mentioned,
Lori's mic is not working.
Yes, we're.
Blowing us out here.
We're gonna make this high. You gotta be near the mic high.
So you're saying I'm not loud enough? How's this, John Holly?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so when December 31st, if you have not renewed, in our system, you go into a lapse stage, you're terminated, your membership's terminated. Your big red number will be on hold for 1 year unless that individual notifies us and releases their big red number. So it'll be the same status if we go to an anniversary after the 30-day grace. I mean, that big red number still be in a hold state until we know otherwise.
Bill, do you have other questions?
Okay, why is it being held then if I can't renew, let's say 3 months down the line, like in March?
You
Can.
You can, yeah, we hold the big red number, giving currently members 1 year to reclaim their big red number.
Okay, so I can rejoin 3 months later in the year. I'm still paying the year's dues. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so how am I terminated?
You won't receive the blue beret.
You won't receive
Okay.
the blue beret. You can't go to any events. You're not allowed. I mean, you have no voting privileges. Everything else is removed from your abilities once you're terminated as a member.
Well, this seems pretty harsh that this is a 30-day grace and then bingo, you're gone.
Actually, it's longer than what we give you right now. We don't give a 30-day grace.
Why isn't there let's say a 30-day grace and then 60 to 90 days suspended and then you get terminated?
Okay, maybe it's the word terminated. So currently in our system, everybody who did not renew December 31st are lapsed members. They no longer have any rights as a member.
Okay.
After that 1 year, then they go to an expired state. And that
Okay.
expired state, again, you have no privileges, but you lose your big red number.
So under this, you would have 30 days where you would get theoretically one more edition of the Blue Beret. You would retain access to the website, those kinds of things. And then after that time, all of that stuff ends, but that big red number is still on hold for a year. Okay, does that answer your question, Bill?
I just don't like the term terminated.
Bill, do you have a better word?
why don't we just change it to lapsed, because that's the term in our database.
How about dropped?
Can we use lapsed? It's in our database.
You can do anything you want.
Okay, so let's change terminated to lapsed. How's that, Tom?
Okay, I also have another question about this. How is this information sent to local clubs, or is it going to be about how many members does my local club have? How do they know? Is there going to be a report sent to the local club?
So currently, anytime somebody renews or joins, the local club is notified. Any officer within a club can, number one, either ask HQ for a report or they can log on to the member-only site and run a report themselves. Only ones that you will not have on that member-only site on that list are those who have asked not to be published.
So you're saying that I, as a local club membership officer or president, can go into the database and find out how many my members are current?
Correct. Actually, all members can do that right now. If you're in your member only, if you're logged in, you can see the database.
Okay, you're saying I can do that now?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes.
Okay, I have another question. Why are there no provisions for multiple years to pay your dues? You're already paying 1 year in advance, correct? Why can't you pay 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
I believe that idea is coming at the summer. Because I know we're going to ask our developers on our database to make those options available.
I believe I asked the same question 6 months ago when we had a forum.
I think they're working on it, Bill.
Can I go away now?
Any other questions, Bill?
No.
Thank you. Doug Hart? Yes. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. It seems to me that our goal here is to retain members, not to fire members.
That's right.
And, I'm looking at my local club's Quipper from August when I was reminded it's time to renew. So essentially I had 4 months before I was dropped, terminated, removed from the rolls, et cetera. And now we're reducing that to 1 month. That seems to me to be the wrong approach. The right approach perhaps would be to remind people over and over again and finally drop them when you're certain they're no longer going to renew. And maybe that's 2 months, maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 4 months. 1 month to me sends entirely the wrong message. And in fact, we will lose members because we will terminate them.
No, Doug, this has nothing to do with how long before your membership expires, you are notified that it's about to expire. It's if you've gotten all of those previous notifications, and I don't know how many there are, because I usually get mine and renew, but however many notifications there are prior to your expiration date, if you ignore all of those, and on your anniversary date, you haven't renewed, you still have 30 additional days to be reminded again. Does that help clarify?
Yeah,
Or
maybe I misunderstood the process because it sounded to me, I think maybe it sounded to Bill Miller like you have 30 days and you're out if you don't renew. So what you're saying, I believe, is you're going to give plenty of advance notice, several months?
Yes. Lori, when do you start, or what are the plans as far as starting the reminder that you can just give me a quick number unless you want to talk loud or talk more.
So it'll be a 60-day or 90-day out is when we start reminding people their renewal.
So 90 days before your membership expires, you will receive your first reminder that it's coming up.
Yeah, just like for our current
current system, we sent out over 6 renewal notifications to our members, both via email, postcards, clubs, different ways. I mean, it's just, we try to remind people as much as possible.
Okay, so within that 90-day period, prior to the expiration of your membership, you've been notified up to 6 times by various forms of communication.
As it gets
Then I-
closer to the expiration date, we will be more aggressive on how often we remind you.
Perfect.
And
I
as they get
gratefully and happily withdraw my comments because that's not the way it sounded, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Bill Wild.
So as I understand this, we get reports telling us who our new members are every month, and right now those reports are only these people were added because everybody's on the annual basis. What would in the future happen is those monthly reports that we get would be these many were joined and these many fell off. So the only thing that I see that's different here is we've actually added a 30-day grace period. We were already dropping people. We've added a 30-day grace period, and I see that primarily as a means of allowing some admin time so that if the person waits until their anniversary date to put the check in the mail, that there's a 30-day grace period wherein their anniversary date would not change. We'll allow it to stay where it was and continue them forward. After that 30 days, all that's going to happen is it's just going to cause them to have a new anniversary date. And it eliminates all of this business that we used to have of people who tried to game the system by waiting 6 months before they renew in the hopes that they could get a half a year, they could renew for the next year. And we had all these rules about, but if you join and if you renew in August, then you have to pay for the rest of this year plus all of next year. And all of that would go away. This would be very straightforward. If you stay concurrent, then your anniversary date stays the same. If you go greater than 30 days, you get a new anniversary date, period. Am I correct in that? It sounds like we're making this way too
So would
complicated.
they have a new anniversary date, Lori?
If they go beyond 30 days, yes. And a new number.
Okay. No. The
This
number.
is like
would-
re-enlisting in the
Okay,
Navy.
yep.
If you don't re-enlist, you get a break in service. If you do, you're contiguous.
Yep. Okay. Chris Steplack.
Hi, here's a question. I'm getting texts from my my local clubs here. Is there any way, you said there was going to be like a 60-day notification, your membership is coming up. Can we get the local club presidents or membership chairs to get the report? I'm assuming, yeah, when we get our monthly report of who was added, we're going to get who was taken off, correct?
Yes, Lori says.
Okay. Can we get that to the local club so they know how to keep their logs going and all that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, Lori said.
Okay.
So you do now, and again, you can log on to the member only portal and you can see exactly who's in a club right this second. It's 1 hour delay from our processing.
Will they see anniversary dates? Is that
So
in?
that is something, if we go there, we could add.
Okay.
Only people you will not see on those reports are the do not publish.
Okay.
So I could have a member of my club who has indicated do not publish, and I wouldn't even know they're a member of my club
Not on the member.
on the
site.
database, but I'd be notified when they paid their dues that this person is a member.
Yes.
Okay.
But could we get the local clubs to get the notification when
Yes.
that person is due? Okay.
Yes, Lori,
Okay.
Lori will do that. She has said
Thank
she will
you.
do that.
Thank
Mike
you.
Sisk.
Yeah, seems to me we got a report maybe in, I don't know, December, November of all the people in our local clubs in our region that had not renewed. And I sent those to each of our local club presidents, check up on these. So there's another notification process. It sounds like maybe you guys, some of you didn't get this report or don't recall it. I thought it was a very useful tool.
And I think the difference will be you'll probably get one of those a month. The big one will be in November, and every other month there might be one or two names on it of those that are not renewed yet. So any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do we need a straw vote on this?
I don't think so.
I don't see any reason for that, so Tom, do you have any closing comments, or shall we move on to item N?
My only closing comment would be that the database is going to be providing renewal notices to the membership on their anniversary date or that is coming up. And, you know, and the clubs are going to be aware of, you know, if people have or have not renewed. So I don't see there's a problem here, but.
Okay, item N.
N. N is a motion to clarify WBCCI policy on default of lifetime members' payment of local club or member at large fee. This motion, if you pass the motion for anniversary collection of dues, then this motion is necessary in order to clean up the language dealing with lifetime membership, so that it reflects the same grace period, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. One question that popped to mind, Lori, will lifetime members get a reminder that they have to pay their local club dues because they no longer have to pay international dues?
We remind, we send them, yes.
Okay.
We send them a letter, and we actually physically call all 318 of them if they have not renewed.
Okay, thank you.
Because a lot of them aren't online, so we physically call them.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions regarding this motion? Okay, I had a hand up and it went down. Moving on then, item O.
This is a motion to include the language of the pledge region presidents and international officers sign before installation. It's came to my attention and the attention of others that all international officers are required to sign a pledge to basically to uphold the governing documents of WBCCI. This is not, never been clearly stated in our policies. And so this is basically putting this into the policies so that everyone who aspires to these positions will be aware of what is expected of them.
Tom, I'm not sure if you're moving papers around while you're speaking or if someone else is doing so, but there's some background noise similar to that. It may not be exactly that, but please, if you're not already, put yourself on mute. And Tom, refrain from moving anything in the background if it was coming from you. So, okay, the motion is O, to include the language of the pledge that the region presidents and international officers sign. Are there any comments or questions from this group or from anyone? Bill Wild.
Not on this one. I actually am the one who was trying to get my hand raised on the last one, but you moved on very quickly. May I?
I apologize. Let me finish this one and I will go back for your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just so we don't jump around too much. Any other questions on this motion, item O? Okay, seeing none, I will move back to item N.
And I'm also moving back there to the item that talks about the $75. And yet.
Wait a sec. Item and the previous motion was for lifetime membership.
Oh, well, I guess that was M. Here's the point. We keep talking about the defaults of payments and people falling off the roll and 30-day grace periods. And I would like to recall Tom's comment during this long conversation about the fact that we're going to individual membership. And if that's the case, then these $75 references are per BRN. And I don't know how we're going to handle it when we go to individual numbers. We're not going to go to each of us having to pay 75 each. I don't even know. I don't know when we're going to go to that, but I can see that we have a problem coming in the way a lot of these are worded if in fact we go to individual members instead of BRNs. Tom?
Okay, this is an issue that has come up multiple times. You have membership and you have members. Your membership in WBCCI covers everyone who you put on that membership application. If you are happily married or unhappily married, or you have a partner, there are both of you are on that membership application. Those are the individual members associated with the membership. The membership is paying $75, not the individual member. The individual member has the right to vote. Okay? And it's not, the big red number has absolutely nothing to do with that. You have a unique member ID number, which is in the database, which you really don't even need to know, that identifies you and allows us to retain records about you for the future, for somebody who's going to write your biography and they need to get that kind of information, it'll be available to them. Right now, it's not, under the old system where we had a membership and everything under that was associated with a big red number only. When you dropped your membership, the big red number went away, as did any information about you. Current system, you have a unique member ID, which you don't need to know. And associated with that is your spouse, your partner, whatever, and a big red number or big red numbers. If you have, as a number of people have, multiple Airstreams, each may have its own unique big red number, but that big red number is associated with a single membership. Does that make all sense?
It makes absolute sense. Thank you very much. What that means is we're talking about membership renewals.
Right.
And this didn't happen to me, so don't anybody start sending cards. But if I had lost a spouse this year, then my membership renewal would be for one member instead of two, but it would still be a membership renewal.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bill, for that clarification. Moving on, I believe we're on item P, Tom.
P, all right. There's 26 letters in the alphabet, you realize, and I've got a few more to go.
Oh.
Okay, this is badge standard items. This is a change in, let's see, I got page 3, I need page 1. A motion to address headquarters' new badge making machine, which requires changes in the structure of WBCCI provided badges for the membership. Basically, Lori has a wonderful machine in headquarters now, which can print badges rather than our having to go out and order. Well, let's see, at last count, there what, 50 some odd different badges. She can now print badges, all right? However, because of that, we need to change the badge.
Oh, my Lord.
Structure. I know. You didn't realize that, did you? No, anyway. We needed to change the badge structure. So that's essentially what this motion is doing. It's defining the structure of the badges for the Board of Trustees, international officers, and then there's badge color coding, et cetera. All of these things are being changed. So what used to be Appendix 2 in the old Blue Book and that was on the website is gone. It will be gone if you approve this. Okay?
Okay, are there any comments or questions from anyone regarding this motion? Tom, you and I had a discussion after I read through this. By eliminating at the bottom of page 2, item number 2, there would be no recognition for region officers other than the president and vice presidents. And we talked about adding that option in. I don't remember where, but did you do that or not?
Yes, ma'am.
You did add it.
It
So-
now reads red and white under section D, number 5, region, red and white, region vice president, secretary and treasurer, and spouse partner of each.
Thank you. And the second item that we talked about was a proviso to allow badges that are issued and currently in use to remain in use. So someone that has an old style badge can continue to use it until they
That
purchase
exists,
a new badge.
that exists in the current bylaws under badges.
Okay. So Cecilia?
Yeah, I was looking at this last night. It was very confusing, first of all. I don't see, comparing the current language with the changed language, unfortunately, there's no redlining. I can't see a lot of changes. So where do the changes occur? I mean, it's Board of Trustees on the badge, International Officer on the badge under B. So can you quickly kind of tell me where some of the changes occurred?
I don't know if they can focus in on me, but I'm going to hold up Brad's badge as Region First Vice President because it happens to be the older style. And you can see it has 3 parts to it. 1, 2, 3. It says the top one is Brad, the second line is his title, First Vice President, and the third line says Region 4. My badge, which is the new style, has only 2 sections to it, and the bottom 2 pieces of information are combined here in the bottom. There will be no longer a 3-part badge. It'll all be combined into 2 parts. Does that help, Claudia or Cecilia?
Well, now maybe Lori's going to clarify it.
Okay.
One of the biggest things to clarify is that we used to have clear badges and we had to do away with clear because you can't print white. Okay, so all of our logos have white in them. You can't print white. White is, in case you guys care, you can't print white. So it has to be a bleed through. So we had to have all our badges, the blanks, be white. That's one of the biggest changes. Does that make sense? So clear, but the standard member badge that was clear is now white.
Oh.
Not red.
Yeah, as I used Region Officer as my example because that's what I could quickly grab and show to you.
Yeah, well, they just gave me this. Bob and I just became life members, so got new badges issued. And I have a Region 12, President, Board of Trustees, 3 lines. Is that the old style?
No, but the 3 lines are in one section in the white.
Oh.
It used to have 2 sections for 2 slide-ins.
I got it. So now it's just how it's sectioned off, kind of?
Yeah.
Oh. All that for this?
It used to have pictures. It was really.
Okay.
Does that answer your questions?
Pretty much.
Thank you.
So really, the language hasn't changed. It's just the stylistic part of it to fit with their printing.
The language had to change somewhat to fit with what they could print. Yeah. Okay. Bill Wild.
Again, two items. One, I think I know the answer to the first one. It's already been asked of the clubs that have gotten custom badges approved. Does this change the format that they're supposed to use? And since we're now talking about just a graphic being printed, is there any reason that those couldn't be printed on our machine if Lori had those, you know, the sunshine background from Florida or whatever, or do they still have to go out to an external vendor? Item number 2.
Wait, what? Let's answer one question at a time.
Very well.
Thank you. Okay, the questions as I understood it is, I will tell you, because Tom shook his head and I could see that you couldn't. This badge and the badge making capabilities at headquarters does not affect any local club badges that have been approved. Now, can they go to headquarters to get their local club badges approved or printed, Lori? She's hesitating. I think that that'll have to be taken under consideration.
So with my tech guy sitting here and Barb on the other end of this meeting, that she won't shut us down. So technically, is it probably possible? Yes. But my biggest concern would just be right now is manpower. It takes quite a bit to set this up. Once it's set up, it's easy to do, but it's getting it there.
So could there be a charge? Just something to think about. It's something you could look into and charge back the local clubs for that setup time.
Yeah, it's something absolutely we could look into. So Barb doesn't cut us off or Amanda quit or anything right now. Sorry, girls. I'm trying. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we could look into.
Okay. Does that help, Bill?
Yeah, I'm sorry to do that to you, Lori, but I guess this is, the issue that came up was a member joins a Florida club. Lori prints a standard member badge for them and mails it to them. They then go to the club and have to pay to have another badge made for them that has the Florida special on it. If we had the Florida background stored in memory, then when she said, I'm going to print a Florida badge, it would automatically print on the Florida template. That's the kind of idea I had, although I know we're not there yet. I told you I was pretty sure I knew the answer, but I wanted to present the question because it's already come to me. All right?
Okay. Yep.
All right. Now, the second item was one more of, again, this is probably going to be Tom. Not only did we do away with the second slot, but we also did away, apparently, with blue inserts for past presidents and past first ladies and that sort of thing. Everything's now going to be printed in black on a white background. Is that correct?
Yes.
Lori shook her head no, because I think that the background would be printed in blue. Is that correct? They would print that blue in there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. And just trying to interpret your head nods there so that everybody can hear. All right. Any other comments or questions, Laverne?
My comment is not actually about the motion.
You're breaking, Laverne, you're breaking up. Not sure why.
Okay, I apologize. I want to say, everybody on the line, whether you're on the panel or online, mute yourselves. We can hear conversations. People are having little mini conversations with each other. There's little I disagree things, whatever. We can hear it very clearly. And so when someone is speaking, your little comments are coming through. And so if you could really pay attention to what's going on as far as your sound goes. Okay, it's just, you may not be aware whether you have an active mic or you're online and you're unmuted, but we can all hear these little comments. So just wanted to FYI.
Thank you, Laverne. Richard Short.
With the new badges, if members join the club, they get a badge from headquarters, and then they go into their local club, and then they become an officer in their local club. And then typically you would have a slot on your badge and you would insert the office. Are the slotted badges going away? And when people go into an office, do they need a new badge? And then we call headquarters, and who bears the cost of the new badge?
Good question.
Okay, so
Lori's coming, one moment.
So just put that back there.
okay, so if you are coming into a region, president, vice president, international automatically issues those badges to those officers. And yes, the slotted badges, I didn't remember all of Rich's questions.
The slotted badges are going away.
So just, the slotted badges are going away, but all the lines will still be on the printed badges. What was the other?
Okay, the question becomes if for local clubs, as they change officers every year, do they then have to buy new badges for those officers?
They do now. So the local clubs,
No, they take the,
not all of them.
not all of them?
No, not
Okay.
all of them. We get, every year, we get orders and orders to make new badges because not all local clubs change the strips in and out.
Okay.
And so, yes, then the local clubs or whoever's ordering the badges bear that cost.
But, because we've talked about this, if a local club wants to, they can get one of those tape machines,
Yeah, label.
label makers, and just put a label over that part to indicate the person's office.
Was that all the questions?
Did I answer all your questions, Richard?
Yeah, I guess so. I just was concerned, in our club, what we did was just if you had the badge, unless it got really beat up over the years and it had sufficient slots, then we made our own little insert. You took the one out and put the next one in. So we didn't bear any cost. But if those badges are going away, then you're saying that the new badge that's printed is sufficiently large that you can add a little stick-on to it to add. Yes.
Basically, but the club may have to invest in a label maker so they can make those labels to tape over that area on the badge.
And are all the stock of the old slotted badges gone now?
No, we still have some, but once they're gone, they'll be gone.
Okay.
So
and
if you want to
that
order a stash for your local club.
So local clubs who have been used to replacing badges for badges that were lost for their members or destroyed or whatever, that will not be a function of local anymore. That will have to go to headquarters for a replacement badge to be made.
It's just up to the local. I mean, some of them will buy a stack of like pre-printed with no names, and they have a label maker and they put their own name, the new member's name on it. So they already have the club name, but they just add the member name.
Okay.
So all clubs have been doing it differently.
Okay, the only comment I want to make too is I believe the old style slotted badges that you have on stock and people may purchase if they want, still have which logo? It's the Heritage emblem?
It's the WBAC.
The WBAC logo. So people that have either the new Airstream Club International logo or the Heritage logo, if they want that on their badge, would have to order those through headquarters.
So I don't know if it helps anybody, but these are much less expensive than the old badges. FYI.
Eric McHenry, Barb, would you allow Eric to speak, please?
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, what we did in Greater Bay Area when we installed our new officers this year is that we actually bought new badges. They cost $1.50 a piece. And so we splurged for about 4 of them. So, we spent $6. And it was a nice tribute to our officers to actually hand them a brand new badge with their choice of logo, right? Because it could be any of the 3 now. And so that's what we did. And Lori's team was great. I think the turnaround time was probably 2 weeks. We did it on the online store, which worked out great. And so we'll probably continue to do that as opposed to slip-in inserts. The quality of the printed badges looks much more professional. People seem to really enjoy it. So I just wanted to add that the process is fairly easy now. And as Lori said, the cost is very low. And for all the work that officers do, again, we felt we could splurge $150 our officers to do that. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Eric, would you put your hand down? Thank you. Okay. Tom, can we move forward then with item Q?
Q is a motion to establish the permitted use of any of the approved insignias of WBCCI on official WBCCI flags. Currently, the official flags as listed on page 1 of the motion can only have the heritage insignia. And there have been some requests for the use of either the WBAC and or the ACI insignia on a flag for one of the official flags. And all this motion does is allow for that to happen.
Are there any comments or questions regarding this motion? Seeing none, we'll move on to item R.
Item R, clarification on assignment of region president's Airstream number. The assignment of the various officers' numbers or standing committee chair off numbers, et cetera, has not been consistent. It was done in 2 different ways. And all we're trying to do here is to change that. The current policy is that newly elected region president shall be assigned the lowest available Airstream number in the 200-299 series based upon a drawing in the presence of the IBT, unless sufficient numbers in the series are not available. And what this does is allows the newly named names of newly elected region officers who want an Airstream number in the 200-299 series will be placed in a drawing. Okay, and that drawing allows for the first person number 1, whose name comes out, to pick whatever numbers are available, as opposed to it being the number being assigned to them or pulled out of a box. They can pick from the available numbers. That's all this is doing. Just making it consistent across all of the assignment of the officer numbers.
Are there any comments or questions?
What, I have a question.
Yes.
What, does that mean that I don't understand what that number would be used for then. Would you take off your other big red number?
Yes. I chose to get a new big red number when I was installed as region president. At that time, they came to me and they said, do you want a big new number? I said, yes. And they gave me an envelope, or they allowed me to pick an envelope that had a number in it. So I was assigned whatever number was in that envelope. I think what you're saying here now is if I say all the names of region presidents who want a new number would be put in a drawing, when my name got drawn out, I could select from any of the 200 series numbers that were available.
Right,
And
correct.
then I would have to get my husband to agree to change it.
Yeah. I did talk to my husband beforehand, so he agreed that we could change our number. So, yes.
And then would that be your permanently new?
That is your brand new big red number.
Okay, so you
Give
don't,
up your old number, they can reassign it to somebody. And I did ask my husband, because he's the one that had to go out and scrape off the old number and put on the new numbers, but he did that. I was really pleased. Thank you.
Keep it forever.
And that is your new big red number forever, unless you change it for some other reason.
become international president. Then you get a
Yes.
one.
Yes. So, any other comments or questions from anyone? Ken Johansson?
You are allowed to have two numbers.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, you could request a second big red number from headquarters and you pay an additional fee for that. But yes, you could have two numbers.
Or I could get a second Airstream.
You could get a second Airstream, yes. Use one when you travel as region president and one when you travel with your local club or whatever. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Mayor Joe Kaplinski, standing chair.
I didn't get there. I see it. Just a minute. I was going through my panelists first. Joe Kaplinski. Go ahead. Barb, would you bring Joe up so he can speak? Joe? Joe, you should be able to speak now. Joe Peplinski? Joe,
Hang on a minute. He's unmuted. Invite, please.
hold on, we're working on it.
We can't hear him either, Vicky. Apparently, his mic at his location is not working. He's
Okay.
on and off of mute and it's not working.
Okay, they're working on it. Because I'm on the historical committee with Joe, he may be wanting to say that you can choose from the 200 series numbers as long as it's not already assigned as a historically significant number. I don't know that, but that number wouldn't be available. You can only choose from what's available. Okay, Joe, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Actually, I was not asking about the historically significant numbers. What I was asking about was, does this policy or would it be extended to 700 and 800 series numbers that are assigned for standing committee chairs and caravan leaders? When I got a 702 recently, they just told me, here's your 3-digit number. Lori would have loved the chance to pick from the available 700 series numbers rather than getting one randomly assigned. It's too late for us, but for future caravan leaders that get 800 series numbers and for future standing committee chairs that get 700 numbers, would this be set where that they would be able to select from the available numbers?
Tom?
As far as I know, it's set up that way right now.
No.
Lori said no.
Tom, it's the same deal, so can we add the others?
Yes? Yes, dear.
Got 300 numbers too.
Yeah, I have 300 numbers for recording secretary and international treasurer.
Sure. Let's just make it a party. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, I can modify or amend that motion and I will get those amendments out to Lori today. And she can send them to all of you.
Tom's on the West Coast, so it's very early for him there. He has much longer to work on this than we do.
Yes, that's true. And I'm not looking forward to the 21st when you're starting at 9:30 and you know what time that is here.
No, 10:30.
6:30. 8:30.
No, we're starting at 10:30.
6:30, guys, come on.
Yes, the executive committee meeting starts at 9:30. The IBT starts at 10:30. So yes, it will be early for you, Tom. Thank you.
Still early. All right. May I just have some closing comments here?
We're not done yet.
we've got other people.
Oh.
with their hand up.
Okay,
I'm
just a
sorry.
minute. We got more questions. John Becker. Barb, you'll have to bring him up. John?
Can you hear me?
Yes, John, go ahead.
Yeah, because with respect to picking numbers, it does specifically say in the policies that caravan leaders, once they've led 5 national caravans, get their number assigned as next available. So I'm just assuming if we're going to change it so that everybody can just pick from the drawing or whatever, that we would just remove that language from the section that describes 800 numbers for caravan leaders. Does say specifically it's next available, at least the last version of the policy I saw.
Yeah, Tom will investigate and update accordingly for all of the people that get numbers, special numbers.
John is correct. And it's going to require actually another motion to do this. I can't do it in this motion, but I can do it on the.
So it'll become a, what, R1 and R2 or?
No, well, this one, the current motion will become whatever it is, R2, I think. And then I'll have to write another motion, which can either be submitted in Sarasota, if that's allowed. My parliamentarian will have to decide that. And or it can be submitted in Tennessee.
Okay. Joanne Miller, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to explain, Tom and I were talking about this particular motion and the region presidents. And the way it was currently handled is anytime that a new region president wanted a number, it always started with the lowest number region. And then the number of choices available to draw from were reduced as you went up through the region. And so in an attempt to make it a little more fair for all of the region presidents, it was written this way that there would be a drawing of the region president's name, and then that region president would choose the number from the available number. But you're right in that it needs to be a separate motion for these other situations, because it specifically says already in policy that it would be the lowest number available would be assigned to the person who becomes eligible for a 700 number or an 800 number.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go forward then. Thank you, Tom. We are, I think, done with your motions. No.
Yes. And I will make as I said, the amendments and send those out.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to motion S. This is made by Eric McHenry. Eric, would you like to speak to your motion?
Action item.
Action item. No, it's a motion.
It's a motion.
It says motion item S.
And there's still action items.
Okay, your action item S. Thank you.
He's Tom Jr., so he has a lot on the docket.
Okay, hang on a sec. I'm reorienting here now that I've been promoted to speaker. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay, I imagine?
Yes, go ahead.
Which motion is this, just to be clear?
This is the lifetime membership one-time fee schedule update. The presentation on lifetime membership and the fee history was part of Eric's report, which you all also got a copy of. So at this time, Eric, I will ask the group if they have any questions, either for your report or for this motion from anybody. Seeing none, I think you're all set, Eric, till Thursday.
That was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll move on to item number, this is a motion now, number 1. This was made by Chris Seplak, Region
Karen.
5. Yes,
This is Barb. Bill Wild has his hand up.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Bill?
Effective when, remember we had that thing where we were telling people, quickly, join before the rate goes up. Get your lifetime membership, which some of us did. There's been like 18 of them this year. When does that special offer go away and this new table go into effect if we do this motion?
Eric, would you answer that question?
Yes, we were proposing to have it to go into effect later in the year. I have to look at the exact date. And the rationale, though, more importantly behind that bill, was that we wanted to make sure that all of our members understood that this was going to happen in the spirit of transparency. Although it was spoken about in the IBT, as we know, most of our members don't really go to the IBT or watch the IBT discussions. And we felt that to do it as quickly as we had originally thought might be losing some time to communicate. So if this motion passes 2 days from now, then we'll talk about it as part of our member communication so that more than just sort of the insiders understand that the lifetime member table is prepared to change. That was the logic behind that. I think it's July or so. I have to go check, but it's something like that.
I'm looking real quick here, Eric. I don't see any effective date on it, but just double check it so that we have one by Thursday. Thank you. I may have missed it. I was looking quick. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Joanne Miller.
Not a comment on that, Karen, but the agenda had been revised and motions 1, 2, and 3 have been added. And the motions that were on there have been moved to 4 through 9. So you need to check with the most recent revision of the agenda.
Okay, I can pull that up. I have that here. Give me 1 second.
I sent an email out to everybody that everything was updated on the website last night.
Okay, I have motion 1 as approving the 2020 budget adjustment. So Eric,
Yeah.
that's yours also. I apologize for missing that.
No problem. So Karen, I'd like to get your thoughts on process. So Rich Short led the think tank committee to look at providing more services to our members. I know that I believe he wanted to speak on this. So let me suggest this, that I'll just introduce the concept of this. And I think Rich wanted to say some words also because he was intimately involved in sort of this whole thing we just did around the benefits. Is that okay to do it that way?
Yep, go ahead.
So what a number of people have been seeing as we look at our communications to our members and our support of our members is that we're pretty weak in terms of member communications. And the proposal is to implement an additional staff position working in Lori's organization for the remaining 6 months of this fiscal year at an incremental cost of $25,000. Now, we would fully expect that that position would be continued in the next year's budget, but that's part of next year's budget adoption process. And so the motion describes the position goals of that position, but just touching through them briefly. One is that, and this is why I asked Rich to talk, the members benefit area has probably quadrupled in the benefits we've had a year ago, and that's been because of Rich and his think tank team. I don't think that that's sustainable. I think that we need some people in HQ, and that's why the exec committee discussed this motion. We talked it over with Beth, our treasurer, and we believe we have funds in this fiscal year to launch this position, basically funded out of reduced travel expenses. As you're aware, for midwinter, we're way under travel expenses given to all the virtual faces here. But long-term, there really is a need. The other thing that came out of Rich's group, which I just wanted to share before Rich talks, is that we realized that we do not have a very robust set of regular communications to our members. Most of our members hear from us at Blue Beret, like here's the Blue Beret, but they don't get periodic emails that say, hey, by the way, hey, it's coming into spring, it's coming into winter, check this out, here's a new benefit happening. We don't really actively manage our social media. We don't really actively manage our website. It's left to volunteers, and we're a bit lacking in our communications about what benefits our club provides. Lori's team is in triage mode where they're managing renewals, they're managing just basic changes to personnel, but really unable to do more proactive communications to talk about the benefits and values of being an Airstream Club WBCCI member. So that's what this is about. I'm going to pause here, and if it's okay for you, Karen, I'd like to ask if Rich wants to add anything, or Karen, or Lori.
Okay, Rich, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thank you. Richard Short, President of Region 2. And yes, we led a member benefits think tank team to explore these things that I had brought to the Midwinter IBT a year ago in Las Vegas. I'm not going to go through the report. You have a copy of the team report, but I will say that this was all brand new. The idea to do these things was an idea that had been bounced around for a while, but doing it was a little bit different. And so we had a little bit of a learning curve. And to put a point on this, I'll say that I'll boil it down to about 5 things. The first thing that we learned was it can be done. We got quite a bit of stuff accomplished in a very short time. The second thing I learned was it wasn't easy. This was new ground, so we had to work through a lot of things. There were no real guidelines. We kind of had to wing it as we went. I learned what a media kit was and a variety of other things that were necessary to promote the Airstream Club in the light that we wanted to attract providers of goods and services of an equal value as the Airstream Club brand. The third thing that I learned, or that we learned, was there were a lot of moving parts to this, and Eric alluded to this. To do it right, it took a variety and many parts of the Airstream Club infrastructure. We needed IT, we needed headquarters, we needed Blue Beret, we needed membership, we needed all these parts to keep this, to put this program together. The fourth thing that we learned was that any new development requires maintenance. You decide that you want to build a new deck on the back of your house. That's great. Now you got a new deck, but now you got to maintain it. You got to clean it, and you got to stain it, and you got to. So we created this new member benefits, but now we have to maintain it and we have to promote it. That is a whole nother moving part that's added to this. And the fifth thing that we learned is that we need help at headquarters. Headquarters is doing an amazing job. They've got so many balls up in the air juggling. I wonder sometimes how they make it all happen to the level that we all enjoy. To put another burden on them is not good. This is an important thing. If we want to see this go forward, if we want to be a long-term player, if this is the direction that we want to go, strengthen the club by increasing the value to each of our members, then we owe it to ourselves and to the membership to dedicate staff and resources to accomplish that. So we learned a lot. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot more. We've just started to scratch the surface of this. But it takes a commitment, and I wholeheartedly back the motion that's going to come across to support additional staff and budget increase for headquarters.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions?
If I would like to, I'll just give you a brief, if I may, of, do I have another minute?
Yes,
Karen?
go ahead, Rich.
Excuse me one.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Let me just give you an update of whoops.
We got you.
You're good.
You're fine.
I don't know what happened. Can you see me?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So just let me give you an update, real brief. The member benefits has generated not only additional value for our members, but value for our club as well. The first one was Passport America. So in the 3 months, October, November, December, we had 37 Airstream Club members take a membership in Passport America. So they took advantage of the value there. But it also provided value to us because Passport America gives us revenue based upon the number of members that signed up. So it was a small number, but we gained $419 in revenue from our relationship in those 3 months. In addition, they've committed to ad space. And I don't know the dollar amount of the ad that they took, but that's another benefit to the club as well as to the membership. Griot's Garage, I have no figures in as yet, but they did take an ad in our directory. So that will generate ad revenue for us. And they've told us that that is a 1-year commitment to us when we entered that partnership. They're going to support us at the International with a $300 basket of product that we can raffle off or do whatever with. And lastly, Michelin. To me, this was the big one that we put on because it's such a name brand and truly adds value. It's an original equipment on new Airstreams. It also will offer 2 tiers of benefit in revenue to the club if we can meet those criteria. So the Michelin has some room to grow. Right now, it's only available in the United States. We hope to, they've told us that they're working on it to bring it to Canada. And the next step would be to see if they have any kind of a program that we can piggyback in Europe to bring it to all our members. But these are the kind of things that we're looking for. And in order to do this and to attract quality partners, we need to commit to this to make it happen. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Richard. Are there any other comments or questions from anyone? Ken Johansson?
Yeah, I guess I'd like, before I could vote on this, I would want to see a revised budget with the bottom line. If I remember correctly, we're talking about additional 25,000 here. Is that what we're talking?
Yes, for this remaining 6 months of
And
the
what
budget
was
year.
what was the original budget projection for the year?
Eric, do you have that? Can you respond to that, or should I call on Beth?
It's probably a call better.
And Beth doesn't have anything with her, so hang on.
I think it was 15,000.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So I'm not understanding how we can spend a $25,000 when we have a $14,000 profit projected.
Yeah, we're moving travel expenses.
Well, but that's a 1-year thing. I mean, we don't have travel expenses this year, but we're going to have travel expenses next year, assuming
Well,
that COVID is.
We're not approving anything for next year's budget. This position will need to be included in next year's budget when Ty brings his budget forward. This is only to cover the expense for 6 months or so or less remaining in this budget year.
So this is a temporary position just for the rest of this year?
I think the long-term intent is to make it a long-term position, but it will need to be part of next year's budget, as are any of the positions at headquarters. They're kind of on a year-to-year based on the budget that gets approved.
I guess I don't see how we can approve this if we are projecting a $14,000 profit this year and we're spending 25,000. And in addition, one thing I was going to bring up in Tennessee, but I guess I'll bring it up now, is I've never seen any provision for paying back the money that was used for the computer, we're down $300,000-400,000 in assets over the last couple of years, and we just keep reducing our CDs.
Okay, Beth, if you need more time to investigate this, or if you can give me a close number, how is our actual spending to projected budget spending doing? I think the answer is that's where the extra money will come from, that 14,000 deficit that you're talking about, is because actual expenses are not anywhere near projected expenses. Can someone give me a number?
And membership is up too.
And membership is up over what was budgeted as well.
By how much?
We're working on it. Hang on.
I'm trying to get it pulled up. So for example, can you guys hear me okay? So I can look at my computer?
Can everyone online hear Lori if she speaks from her seat? Okay, I see lots of nodding heads. Lori, go ahead.
Okay, so for the first quarter of new members, we are up roughly about $3,800. The second quarter for new members, we're up $5,500 from budgeted income, and that's just strictly on members. And then at this point, and this is through December 31st, we are projecting with the less expenses and travel, close to a $97,000 profit because of the lack of travel and the up in membership right now.
Does it answer your questions, Ken?
Well, I would wait till year end to see how this all pans out, because moving items out of travel, I mean, it'll pay for it this year, but I'm not convinced that in the current dues structure, it'll pay for it next year. And I think we need to think long-term more than just 6 months. And, we're talking 6 months here. And I think we need to think longer than the 6 months out.
Okay.
Just my opinion.
Thank you. Doug Hart.
Okay. I certainly hear Ken, and normally I would agree with him, but I think we're way overdue investing in benefits to our members. And I would consider this not an expense, but an investment in the long-term growth of the club. And so I would absolutely support this expense. In fact, I would support it next year, even if we ran at a deficit. And I'd congratulate Richard and his team on really thinking long-term about growing the benefits that we offer our membership.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Doug. Richard?
I don't have the budget in front of me, but I think that the last year's budget had an added item for marketing. And I think that I had asked President Andy at that time, was this new money into the budget for a specific line item? And I believe the answer was yes at that time. So I won't say that 100%, but I would ask the treasurer or those who have knowledge of that to relook and see if there was a line item that was added last year, new money for marketing that could be earmarked for this.
Yeah, actually,
There was.
there is. Yeah, actually, there was $11,500 budgeted for marketing last year or this year, and we've only spent $1,800 out of that so far. So we have a balance of $9,650 from that asset or from that account.
Okay.
And can I also make one comment too? If this person comes on, it is absolutely, our goal is going to be benefits, but it's recruiting in general. I can tell you just from feedback from Airstream Inc., we are missing the boat on multiple areas of not getting us out there. So that would, again, be part of this communication of us making sure that we're doing a better job of marketing our team and bringing benefits to our members.
Are there any other comments or questions? Cecilia?
I have two comments. I liked your statement about marketing. Several years ago, I can't remember how long it's been since Fred was our marketing person, but he was a professional marketer. He did a good job. But, you know, he was also had his own life. We need somebody that is focused directly on that. And my other comment is, I don't think we should look at how we can afford it, but how we can't not afford it. We need it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Okay, I see none. Guess we'll move on then to motion number 2. Eric?
Yeah, motion number 2, if we're talking about the same motions as the entering into an agreement for the 2023 International Rally. Right, so we're in final contract negotiation structure, looking at it right now with Yakima State Fair Park for the 2023 International Rally. And it's going to be starting July 22nd or 23rd, 2023, and conclude just before the 4th of July weekend. We, as typical for our club, we bring this request to enter into agreement in front of the board to get approval and also transparency as well. So pretty much normal stuff. We're excited about it, but we really have to lock something in to lock in the rates, lock in the infrastructure developments. They're investing about $2-ish million in infrastructure investments, and Larry Owens has been on the call with them pretty much every week, looking at the sewer and the water and the parking and the blah, blah, blah electrical. So we really want to lock that in. They want us to lock it in because of their investment. So that's what this issue is in front of the board for 2 days from now.
Are there any comments or questions for Eric on this motion? I see none, Eric, so we'll move on then to the next motion. Number 3.
3 is an interesting one. I'll probably ask Tom to weigh in on this one also. So as we know, we are fully hopeful that by Lebanon, we'll be able to all be shoulder to shoulder and having our meetings. This motion, which we wanted to get your feedback on today, is that what if we're not in that position? And so what we've done the last 2 IBTs, so July for Lebanon, and frankly, this one also for Sarasota, is that we've had emergency resolutions that we sent out to you all probably 2 months ahead. And so what this is, it's saying, hey, look, if we have to do the same thing again for Lebanon, if we have to allow for some portion of hybrid or some portion of fully remote, we want to get that paperwork in front of you now such that you can understand it. This really drives into the voting question. As you remember from July, we did online delegate voting for international officers. Sorry, we use a delegate process, but online for international officers and for constitutional. And it's really important that we figure out how we will do it if things don't go the way we're hoping with respect to COVID and travel. So that's what this is about. It's a way to get this in front of you now while we got you all together here, as opposed to trying to do it over email 2 or 3 months before. We need to make the decision probably 3 months before July, what we're going to do on voting because of the timelines for voting and the work that has to go into selecting a system. That's kind of the background. I know Tom looks like he's ready to say something. So if it's okay with you, Karen, do you want to let Tom fill in some more, or do you want to just, how do you want to do it?
Go ahead, Tom.
All right, I'm probably the instigator of this for a couple of reasons. The first one is that I am the supervisor for the delegates meeting, as I have been for the last few years. And in that particular position, I have a responsibility to or for the delegates. My background, my educational background is as a medical entomologist, but I'm also have a great deal of experience or background in epidemiology. I do not feel that the COVID-19 situation and the CDC's recommendations are going to disappear by the July meeting. Yes, we may have more immunizations. Yes, we may see some flattening out of the COVID infection rate. But over the last number of weeks, there have been some very virulent mutations of this particular virus that have appeared. And in fact, there is one that appeared, at least I saw it in a publication yesterday, that seems to be even more virulent than the British or the African strains. That being the case, we need to have in place, I think, the CDC recommendations for the delegates meeting. That requires, in this particular case, assuming that we would have a delegate from all of our respective local clubs, that requires a minimum of 4,000 square feet. Discussions that I've had seem to indicate that that's not available to us without considerable effort of tearing down part of the facility that exists in Tennessee. Having said that, and having seen this situation, I made the suggestion to the EC in a series of emails that we need to go back and put in place an emergency resolution that will allow us to have the same kind of a voting structure that we used last year for Colorado, as far as the delegates meeting is concerned. Now, Eric has indicated we may or may not need that. My particular position at the moment is that I do not see that we will be able to have a delegates meeting with the appropriate CDC conditions in place. And as the person responsible for that meeting, I certainly do not at this moment want to hold it as we would normally do in the past. So that's the reason for this particular motion. And I'm hoping that, you know, it will be approved. That way we will be in a position, assuming that there is no really significant change in the COVID-19 situation, to deal with our election and our consideration of the amendments to the Constitution. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions from anyone?
I have a question.
Cecilia?
Tom, I thought some of these motions that we are preparing to pass or not pass, depending, coming before us on Thursday, cover this.
They do not.
They do not?
No, because there's a constitutional amendment that has to be to deal with the delegates meeting. That's number one.
Oh, that's the Constitution. Okay, got it.
And number two is the whole issue of the CDC conditions for holding any kind of a large gathering.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? John
Karen,
Holly,
so
wait, Eric, just a minute. John Holly.
Well, Tom brings up a very good point, and I wanted to know if the executive committee has thought about, with corporate office, about when the deadline might be for possibly canceling the Lebanon rally, because the COVID obviously is getting much, much worse all across the country. I'm quite concerned about that. But what I'm more concerned about is I've got contracts going out to various entertainment venues and so forth, and I've got to make sure that I can get out of those contracts or not issue them until we know where we are. So I need a little guidance on all of that. Thank you.
It's being worked on, John. That's what I'm being told. So we don't have an answer, but it's being worked on.
Okay,
Eric,
Yeah, and I'd like to constrain, this motion was very specific, as you heard Tom said, about the delegates meeting. And that's related to whether or not the rally happens or not. We all hope it does. But if it does happen, assuming it does happen, just the physical space constraints within the meeting hall. And that's why this is specific to the delegates meeting, not the overall rally. And so my interest in getting feedback from this group is, do we do this now and say, hey, look, we're going to have a electronic delegate meeting for sure? Or do we postpone that decision until we have more information a few months down the line and do an emergency resolution? So really, I'm asking the question of, do we do this now or do we do it later? And I don't disagree with Tom, by the way, I have to say, but that's the question in front of us today, now or later.
any other comments or questions?
Karen,
Yes.
from a planning point of view, for a lot of our presidents and all, I think doing it sooner would be much more significant than having to wait at a later date.
Thank you, Bard. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, would you like a straw vote, Eric, or are the people here wanting to do a straw vote?
I'd like a
Bill, I
straw
see
vote.
your-
I'd like a straw vote. I see Bill's hands up also. I do want to get a sense though of what this group wants to do.
Okay. Bill Wild?
I also think that doing it sooner is better. No one's mentioned it, but every one of us region presidents are dealing with the same issues, trying to decide what to do about our region rallies. And we're looking to international, along with other things, for precedents on how we should handle these things. Clearly, if you decide that it's not safe to hold international, then I'm not going to be inclined to be doing something on a region level. So yes, please go forward with that. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Bill. I want to point out that this is a resolution to change the delegates meeting to a mail-in or electronically vote method. It has nothing to do with whether the international rally is held or not.
I get that, but I guess what I'm saying is advanced planning is a good thing in everything that we're doing. We're all sitting on the edge of the cliff wondering whether or not to jump.
Understand. Okay, Ken?
Just as a side note, we have canceled our region rally because of the virus.
Thank you. When was it scheduled, Ken?
We really didn't schedule it yet, but probably we're looking at spring sometime.
Okay.
We didn't.
So, thank you, Ken. Any other comments or questions?
I'd like a straw vote then, given there's no other questions.
Okay, so the resolution is to, if I summarize this right and stop me if I'm wrong, Eric, but the resolution is to cancel the delegates meeting and replace it with a pre-vote that the results would be announced at the international rally or during that time frame. The resolution would extend until the end of the rally, July 24th. Are there any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution, Jane oops, you're voting, never mind. All those in favor of the emergency resolution, excuse me, please raise your hand. I have 9 hands raised in the room and I have 15 of the panelists raising their hands. So those are, remember, Eric, every region officer gets an opportunity to vote. But, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. My parliamentarian. And all those against the resolution, please raise your hand. I have 2 hands raised, Eric. So
That was excellent, Karen. Thank you. So based on the straw thing, we will keep this on the motion for Thursday to get a full vote. And again, as you said, I just have to restate it. If this passes, there will be no physical delegate meeting at the Lebanon International Rally. So
Even if we're there.
thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. The next motion,
Correct again.
okay, item 4, region operations, Eric.
I think we missed one.
You missed
Oh, no,
one and
Three.
sorry, number 3.
Oh, sorry.
Number 2.
No, 3 was the emergency resolution. 4 is,
what happened to one?
We did.
I mean,
What happened to the,
region operations.
That's next.
that's coming up.
if we do,
That's the one I'm looking at.
do Central Washington Fair?
Chris Seplack, this is your motion.
Okay. Missed that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, mine's just clean up from the last constitutional that was passed last year, basically adding the duties of region presidents being representing the members at large at the delegate meeting. So.
Is there any additional comments or questions for Chris on this one? Ken? Ken Johansson, you've got your hand up.
Oops, sorry about that. How do I, oh, lower hand. Okay, sorry.
Okay, Jane Carmichael?
Do I understand correctly, the region president would vote on behalf of the members at large who have sent in their vote, and we've been informed of how it went, and it is a one vote?
No, you would act like a local club president at the delegates meeting for those members at large. The local club president casts the number of votes as for the number he has in his club. You would cast votes based on the feedback for all of the members at large in your region.
All those who responded, or the total number, and then that's a percentage, or how is that going to be done?
Tom or Joanne, would you tell me that?
It's those who vote.
It's only those who vote, because local club presidents, as the delegate, take the votes of those they've received and apply it as a percentage across their total membership.
Everybody does it differently.
Oh, do they? Okay. So I guess I've been told it should be only those who vote, your members at large.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next motion. Motion number 5 is from Eric McHenry.
By the way, I just want you guys to know that I realize I have almost as many motions as Tom, and I'm not sure that's a bad thing or not, but I just want you to know this is just circumstantial, okay? So this last one is one that I'm just really excited about, and John Hawley is I see his face under mine on the Zoom thing. So, you know, Indie Streamers, which is our most recent intra club, got a provisional charter in our last IBT, and they've performed all the things that are necessary. They've elected their officers. John tells me they have roughly 150 members, I believe, in the club. And
Yes.
so this motion is to grant them a permanent intra-club charter. So, John, did you want to add anything?
Well, it's taken off very quickly, Eric. You know, we started out with 10 original members and it's grown to over 150. And basically, not to be confused with a single sort of club, but Indie Streamers stands for any any couple or individual or single people or whatever that frequently travel alone. And that's what it is. So it's a support group to help people with safety, with camping, with gatherings. We have a forum that's been established that people can ask questions about what to do when they're on the road by themselves. And it's really taken off. So, and we have our bylaws and constitution in place, thanks to you, Eric, and Tom and Joanne. And it's going to be a fun group, I think. It's one that has been needed for a long time. So we're really excited about it. Thanks.
Are there any additional comments or questions regarding this motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to motion number 6. This is a motion actually from me. The Appalachian Unit of West Virginia has requested a name change to the West Virginia Airstream Club. It's been voted on and approved by the region. I don't think it creates any concerns, but I will ask that question. Are there any comments or concerns from anyone? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next motion. Number 7, this is from Region 1, Doug Hart. Doug, do you want to add anything?
Okay, I don't have it in front of me. Would you just read it or just paraphrase it for everybody, please?
Sure. This is to approve a logo for the Cape Cod, Massachusetts Airstream Club. A new logo.
Nice.
Any comments or questions from anyone? Joanne Miller?
I just wanted you to know that unless you object during the meeting on Thursday, you will be asked if you choose to deal with motions 7 and 8 together because they both deal with new logos for different local clubs.
Okay, so 7 is a logo for Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and 8 is the new logo for the West Virginia Airstream Club, of which there is a proviso, assumes that you approve their name change. So any comments, Bard?
My concern is the WBCCI, is that going to still be held as we go forward? Or are we going to be changing that to ACI in the future? Is the Wally Biome Caravan Club still going to be our official name? Or are we converting ourselves to the Airstream Club International? And therefore, this really should be looking at ACI instead of WBCCI.
Karen,
Go ahead, Tom.
the name of this club is the Wally Biome Caravan Club International Incorporated. That's not changing. I would not even want to think about changing that. Do we have other AKAs? Yes. Okay. But the official club name is Wally Biome Caravan Club International.
Local clubs have the option to use any of the approved emblems in their local, in their logos and on their proposed flags.
Yes.
And that same option is being offered to some of the approved other flags that was a previous motion. So
Logos have to include WBCCI.
the logos have to include the WBCCI initials somewhere.
Karen,
Yes?
the logo does not have to. A flag does.
Flag does. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, so any other comments or questions on either motion 7 or 8? Joanna, are any of the other ones, are 8 and 9, or no, 9 and 9 the last one?
9 is the last one.
9 is the last one and it's a new flag design.
Yep, we have a new flag design for the West Virginia Airstream Club. uses their logo. Assumes you approve their new name. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we have worked our way through the motions. Yay. Yes, Cecilia,
Before the Zoom people,
I'm not going to dismiss them yet. I'm not done.
okay. I want to show everybody the brochure on Zoom so that they can,
Okay,
they want to do.
thank you. Richard, you had asked for time to talk about the membership benefits thing that ended up becoming, I think, part of Eric's one motion. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer or entertain them, but it was a good experience. We really put a lot of effort into it. Mike Sisk and Larry Madden and Jan. I had to have Jan come in and speak Southern for me a couple of times. But we did good. If anybody's got questions, I'll be glad to answer, but I think I covered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone here in the building have something else they'd like to bring up? Cecilia?
Hello, everybody out there. I just want to, I'm kind of bragging a little bit about Region 12, but I also want to share the concept with you. We talk about marketing and getting more new members and letting people that buy new Airstreams know about our club. Our marketing manager, along with the help, along with the help, you're not going to be able to see this, but it's a trifold advertising that we're going to distribute to all the Region 12 Airstream dealers. Inside, there's pictures of all the units with tiny little descriptions, just a quick brief thing. In the middle on the back, there's all the websites for the individual club. And then on the back part of this, there is a description of our club. And there's also a little blip about Jackson Center, Ohio, and the Airstream factory and things. It's really all encompassing of our club and Region 12 and the things. I think if maybe some of the other regions wanted to try and mask on this, we would be happy to share the template and get it out to your dealers and see if they'll be willing to at least put a place somewhere near the cash, where it's there, or put it in Airstream trailers. We had, I think, about 500 or 1,000 of these printed up for a very reasonable price. It came out of our budget. It was a couple of $100s, I think. So it wasn't terribly expensive. It's a nice glossy paper. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you in case you were interested. I've had several people ask me to send the template to them, and you can convert it to your own group. But it's a great marketing tool.
Okay, is there anything else from anyone here in the building? Larry?
I have a question for Lori. Are those cards still available that were Western kind of motif of the Airstream in it that were used for recruiting?
No, we don't have those available, but we do have a trifold brochure that is available at the office for anybody for distribution.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions, Bard?
I understand the reason for the forum here to discuss the new resolutions and all, but I also think that we need to expand, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, about the function of the regional officers and try to pick our minds of other regional officers, how to have a cash flow for the region, because there's no income. How do region rallies run? How do we discipline people or members within the region? All of these type of things that we need to probably discuss. I would love to see this expanded to maybe another session at some point to discuss other things other than resolutions.
Okay, we have some time today that we can certainly discuss some of those items. But I understand what you're saying. A second session might be good to consider. You want to try to squeeze something in yet at this?
I think everybody's fatiguing at this point.
Okay, well, but no, I guess my question was leading more, should I see if I can't find time tomorrow that at least, well, we'd have to set up another Zoom meeting. Lori may not like that for all of those region officers outside. And I don't have my schedule in front of me. Is there any open times tomorrow if you wanted to get back together? I think there's a bunch going on.
Yeah, it looks like tomorrow, I mean, I don't know where that is, but tomorrow there's an 9:30, 10:30, 12:30, and 4. But I don't know where the caravan leader training is. Okay.
Okay, well, I can offer.
That's the one to find and ask.
Well, I was gonna say, I can offer a Zoom meeting only. So if you're here, you would have to have internet access and computers that you could log in, or tablets or whatever, to log into a Zoom meeting tomorrow at 12:30. And we could meet for a couple of hours, if that sounds agreeable. If you're interested in that, would you please raise your hand? Tomorrow at 12:30, Zoom meeting only.
Discuss.
5:30?
Huh?
12:30, that. And that's.
Oh, I'm sorry, to discuss other things for regions.
Training.
Like how do we have opportunities for cash flow? How do we talk about, how do we plan our region rallies? I think this would be a great opportunity for you to talk about the Region 12 rally that was held last fall and what kinds of things you did to implement CDC guidelines for everybody, because I'm sure a lot of us as region presidents are concerned. But it's to discuss other topics than just the motions. So Brad?
I suggest if it's going to be a Zoom only meeting, we do it other than this week.
That's an option.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, is that acceptable?
Right, we need to get something on the board though.
Okay. I will take that under advisement for just a minute. Tom Smithson.
As long as we're talking about meetings, there was supposed to be an officer training or orientation, as I prefer to call it, meeting. Sarasota. And because neither Joanne nor I could be there, we decided we were not going to do that, obviously. However, what we do plan is a series of Zoom meetings, which will begin probably in February, where we will invite a number of regions to a officer orientation, which will try to cover the materials that we were going to cover in Sarasota. And you'll be hearing more about this on the road.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat that because that did break up a little bit. Tom and Joanne are planning some region officer orientation Zoom meetings for all of the region officers. My discussion previously with Tom is that they will be smaller groups. It won't be everybody at once so that they can manage it. So there will be several of these sessions scheduled. I don't know how they're going to determine who attends which session. That's up to them, but that is coming. So the region officer orientation that was scheduled here and was canceled will be rescheduled as a Zoom meeting for the region officers. Tom, do you have anything else? You still have your hand up.
No, I'm sorry. That's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Jim Johnson?
I put my hand down.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other things that we want to bring up and discuss here today? I have 2 items yet, just quick. Okay, my question is, do we want to continue to have these forums prior to the next IBT meeting? If you are in favor of that, please raise your hand. I see 9 hands here in the building and they keep coming. I see about 15, 16 hands online. So we will continue with that. The next question is, who would you like to have facilitate that meeting, or who is willing to take on that responsibility?
Are you willing to continue?
Okay, the question was asked here, am I willing to continue? I would like to remind you all that I have submitted my name for international third VP. Traditionally, the incoming third VP candidates are asked to participate in some of the EC activities prior to their election, just to give them a feel for what's going on. It was pointed out to me that if I continue to be facilitator for this, it could potentially be considered a conflict of interest. I am not opposed to taking that or continuing this, but I do want to point out that, or remind you of that fact, so you can certainly change your mind. Jane Carmichael, you have your hand up.
I also used a hand gesture that I think you do. That I think you do a fine enough job that you should stick with it. I do not worry about a conflict, except as your fellow ECers may look at you, and we'll see what happens after Lebanon. But if you're willing, I certainly appreciate how you've done this. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Saplock, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I guess a question, Karen. Since you are coming off as a region president, that second IBT at Lebanon, we will probably have to get a new person.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
And if someone is interested, I would be more than willing to have you work with me, if you want me all to stay on, for the first forum before the first IBT, so that you kind of get a feel for what I do and what's going on. So if you're thinking about it and want to know more, I'd be happy to share that with you. Cecilia?
You know, I think it would be a really good idea if you could get someone to work with you for the first meeting, kind of a training, and then also as a backup, if for some reason you're pulled out for an EC activity, we have someone prepared and ready to facilitate the meeting. And I would volunteer that, but that would be a waste because I'm off too.
Okay. So any other comments or questions? Huh?
Jim Polk did this for a long time. Was he an officer?
Yeah, he was an office. I believe when Jim Polk started, he was a region officer. He was not a region president.
Correct.
So if we have any region officer of any level that's willing to, it's a facilitator position. And again, during this forum, we all have an equal voice. So I personally don't see any reason why it couldn't be any region officer, as opposed to having to be a president. Any comments or questions from anyone? So just to be clear, I will reiterate the original question. Who would you like to be your facilitator? I did hear someone down the aisle here say they would like me to continue, and if you, and there's a second, didn't know it was a motion, but okay. So if, I will ask this, is there anyone who objects to me continuing for the first IBT meeting to be the facilitator for the forum?
Anybody?
That's not. Okay. Is there anyone who is interested in working with me to take over the facilitator position? And it can be more than one person. It doesn't have to be one. So if you don't want to raise your hand today, please send me an email, give me a phone call, whatever. I am more than happy to work with you. And I will be honest, I don't do a lot between the forums. Unless somebody brings something up and says, let's get together, I will set up the next Zoom meeting so we can talk about some of the potential things that Bard talked about. It's mostly making sure I'm familiar with the motions and have an idea on how I want to run the meeting, but that's usually all I do, so. Just FYI. All right, it is currently 10 to 4. There is something going on here in Sarasota at 4 o'clock. So I will ask if there's any final questions. I will be getting Bill Wild.
I had to wait until I made sure you knew I wasn't volunteering for your job. I think that the word may be out and I'm just in the dark, but whoever steps up for this probably needs to know where we're going to be the following year. The rumor is out that it's Maine, but I don't know. Do we officially know where we're going to be?
Barb, would you bring time out up to speak?
Well, the next IBT is going to be in Savannah. The next IBT is going to be in Savannah.
Please be careful because we can hear all the whispering on the microphones. Ty, do you
Yes.
want to make any comments about the location either for your rally, international rally, or for your midwinter IBT at this time?
Sure. My midwinter is going to be in Savannah, Georgia. And the dates on that are, hold on 1 minute. The date will be January 17th through January 21st. We will be staying at the Creek Fire RV Resort, and it has a mailing address to Savannah, Georgia.
And do you want to make any comments about the proposed location for your international rally?
International, we're still going with Freiburg, Maine, and I'll be announcing the dates and stuff to that here at our IBT meeting.
Does that answer your question, Bill? Thank you, Ty.
I didn't catch the name of the city, but that tells me it's on this coast, which is, I was just thinking about who might be able to be there.
Understand. It's a good comment. Any other comments or questions from anyone? With that, oh, Richard?
Can you give me an idea how many people are in Sarasota? Rigs, how many people are actually there?
58 rigs. 58 rigs.
Yeah.
And roughly 115, 16 people.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, seeing no other hands or things, I will adjourn this meeting and we'll be in touch with you all to set up another discussion by Zoom in the next few weeks. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Thank you, attendees, for listening in, and we'll see
Thanks,
you all
Karen.
soon. Yep.
Great job, Karen.
Good for us this time. My husband's 75 and 6.